Welcome to the final Club World Cup Fantasy deadline stream of this tournament. We are approaching the final between Chelsea and Paris Saint-Germain, so Matchday 7 will be the absolute end of this competition, and it is its own entity, as I discussed in my team selection video and the best wildcard squad, because you can't make substitutions or change the captaincy. You've got one shot at getting it right. It's all about your starting 11 and your final captain. You can see it on Hakimi currently, but it doesn't matter in my case because I've got the maximum captain chip active. It's my final booster to use in this competition. If you have 2 or more boosters to use still, you can't use, well, quite a few of them actually. It depends on how many you have, but only 1 chip can be used in a given game week or match day. So if you do have the maximum captain and the 12th man, you might have a decision to make about which chip you want to prioritize. But for me, the best captaincy options are Hakimi and Dembele. If you're backing PSG for a clean sheet, I would go for Hakimi overall. And he's the template pick, the kind of safer option. And I think he's been really consistent in this tournament. Dembele is maybe a little bit more of, trying to chase a bit of a differential as a captain, but his ownership is still quite high. Not as much as Hakimi, of course, but I think those two are the standouts. Then you've got the Chelsea options like Joao Pedro and Cole Palmer, and it could be a surprise game winner who scores the winning goal, maybe in the defensive line, coupled with a clean sheet. You're looking at a massive return there, and the maximum captain could be really useful, but I have missed several big opportunities to use that chip, such as matchday 1 and 6, where I would have gained between 10 to 19 points in the process. But let's get straight into your questions. As always, drop a like, also subscribe, share this video, all that good stuff, and very soon, FPL and UCL Fantasy will return, and the same goes for my coverage. Easy says final stream for World Cup Fantasy before focusing on FPL. That's the plan. In terms of FPL streams, I wouldn't expect anything just yet. I think the first one will definitely be, well, it will likely be in the deadline stream for Matchday 1 or Game Week 1, and that will be in over a month's time. But if I'm able to maybe do a planning stream or something like that beforehand, I'll let you know. But I think most of that will be pre-recorded content. Easy says transfer Nuno Mendes, Dembele, Fabian Ruiz, and 1 more transfer, either Nkunku or Gonzalo Ramos. Well, Nkunku should start in my opinion, and we'll get the lineup fairly soon, probably before the deadline as well. Gonzalo Ramos won't, but he can make an impact off the bench, so I actually don't mind him as a differential, but in terms of minutes, he's not safe. So between those two, it's actually not an easy call regardless, but I would favour Gonzalo Ramos, assuming it doesn't really impact your other PSG players. So if you're happy with the other 7 selections there from Paris Saint-Germain, then I think Gonzalo Ramos is a decent pick. Maybe you're not even going for 8 PSG and you're favouring Chelsea in this final. Easy puts his formation, which is a 3-5-2. Donnarumma, Hakimi, Cucurella, Nuno Mendes, Dembele, Kvaratskhelia, Ruiz, Palmer, Neto, Joao Pedro, and then one of Nkunku or Ramos. I'd personally favour Ramos in this scenario, but it's all based on your predictions. I can't stress that enough. And if you're backing Chelsea to win or keep a clean sheet, go for more Chelsea players, and that could also change your formation as well. But from those players you have, I think Gonzalo Ramos over Nkunku would be my recommendation. Maximum captainship active. I think that'll be the case for a lot of people watching as well. Kevy says max captain, I'm putting it on Palmer. I know it's not the favourite captain, but here we go. Good luck, buddy. Hoping the game's not over after 20 minutes. Yeah, but to be honest, because you got the maximum captain chip, it doesn't really matter. Basically, your highest scoring player in your 11 will be assigned the captaincy automatically, so you don't need to worry about that. Pretty wild to see odds like 1.77 on PSG, to be honest. Expected that to be lower. Yeah, I saw some where it's like PSG are, what, in terms of probabilities, like 56% chance likely to win. And with those odds, they normally win like 75% of their games or something like that. But yeah, I think PSG are the favourites, and rightfully so. They are the best club side in football, but they have lost plenty of games. In the Champions League, people talking about the best team ever. Let's calm down a little bit, because they lost 5 games in the Champions League, including 3 in the league phase, and they finished 15th. I know they've progressed as a team since then, and you could definitely argue that now they're a well-rounded team, very good to watch, but yeah, they are beatable. I think Chelsea can do a job. It's a one-off game, so you can't discount them. Gary says all our teams will be very similar, if not identical. But that's the case with World Cup, UCL Fantasy, Euros. When you're down to just 2 teams, and you can obviously pick 8 players from one club and 7 from the other, you are quite limited in your choices. But in my scenario, for example, I'm looking at going all out on PSG and going for a 4-5-1 formation with Donnarumma in goal, 4 PSG defenders. I think that'll be slightly different to what most people are doing, but it won't be a massive difference overall. But you can still find those small gains and margins to rise up the mini leagues and also, you know, go up the rankings as well. Tennis and football final, the perfect day in the UK. Yeah, and it's a good final. I was watching a little bit between Sinner and Alcaraz. I might even put it on at some point and, you know, try to catch some of the crucial points. Gary says, last chip played, the maximum captain. We need some goals in this one. Yeah, my prediction was 2-0, and I'm not fully settled on it, but that's kind of my gut feeling. And based on that prediction, I think a 4-5-1 formation makes a lot of sense. And I do have most of the, I'd say most likely goal scorers for Paris Saint-Germain, except Gonzalo Ramos. I don't think I'll bring him in. Otherwise, that jeopardizes one of my defenders, or even a midfielder, which I'm not too keen on doing. I think Dembele is the standout, though. If you don't have him, he should be a priority, and that's the case for me, of course, in the last 2 match days. He has been a big miss. I think Fabian Ruiz would be the other one that, from open play, he'd be the most likely from the starters to nick a goal like he did against Real Madrid with that brace. I think Barcola off the bench is decent, but yeah, I think Fabian Ruiz might be my biggest regret if I don't go for him in the end. Good to see you, Kev Mac. Afternoon all. Good luck for the final. Likewise to you. Thank you very much. Dembele is a great captain if he plays over 65 minutes. Yeah, for me, the top 2 captaincy options are Hakimi and Dembele, probably in that order, because I'm backing PSG to win 2-0. So the clean sheet also adds another dimension to Achraf Hakimi. But I think Hakimi's also the more template pick, and that might be ideal for those looking to preserve their rank. So if you don't have the maximum captainship active, and you want to play it safe, I think Hakimi is a logical choice. Dembele might be a little bit more aggressive. It's not going to be the biggest differential we ever see, and he's probably the 2nd or 3rd most popular captain for Matchday 7. But yeah, I think Dembele is very close to Hakimi, and I think those two are just levels beyond the rest in terms of Club World Cup fantasy. Gary says they seriously do not want to do this in America again. Europe next, please. Well, apparently America want to do the next one in 4 years' time, so let's keep an eye on that situation. But I'm sure different countries will now want to, you know, host it and maybe expand the tournament even further, so it can be like the World Cup, which will now have 48 teams, and in the future we'll probably see 64 nations competing in the World Cup. The same goes for the Club World Cup, and you might see Liverpool, Barcelona, Arsenal, and all these teams alongside the ones you've just seen. But yeah, it's been a decent tournament overall. There have been some good moments, but yeah, I'll have to say, for a lot of us, maybe the emotional investment isn't there because our clubs aren't participating, so that plays a big part too. Christian United says, only starting with 3 Chelsea players, mistake? I wouldn't say it's a mistake. I'm going for the same approach. I think one thing that these fantasy games can do with cup competitions is allow you to pick 11 players from the same club. So that will give you a decision to make. If you're really bullish on PSG winning the final, then do you go for the whole 11 and something like that? And that allows you to then buy a differential bench player like Gonzalo Ramos or Barcola. But yeah, just like the Euros and UCL Fantasy and all these different games I've covered before, you can only pick 8 players from the same club. But my kind of approach here, I think, will be 8 PSG and 3 Chelsea. It might be a mistake. And like I said before, you can't discount the Blues, but PSG are the odds-on favourite for a reason. Sazad says, we've had a fantastic tournament so far, and the lads have shown incredible fight to get here. We might be seen as the underdogs against this PSG side, but this is Chelsea. We thrive on proving people wrong. It's just the Club World Cup. Calm down, mate. Easy says, Mr. President will be final and give the trophy to the winner. Oh yeah, the FIFA president will always do that. Any UEFA competition, of course, you'll have Sefrin doing the same. Yeah, that's not really, nothing really surprising there. Morpheus, good to see you as always. John says, can you change your captain? And, well, yeah, once the team lineup is out, depends. So if it happens before the deadline, then the answer is yes. But just to make it very clear, once the deadline passes at 7 p.m, you're still able to make these changes in terms of, you know, modifying your starting 11 and stuff, but you can't make transfers. So that will be locked in. That is not really different to previous match days. But once the game starts, you cannot make any changes whatsoever because there's no other game within this match day. So hopefully that makes sense. John Boltman says, great, thanks. Hot on Joao Pedro right now. Got to see if he starts. I'm fairly sure he's going to start, but yeah, we should get that information before the deadline. It's not a guarantee, but that would be my kind of opinion on it. the way he played in the semi-final, even his cameo off the bench in Matchday 5 on his debut. Yeah, I think Joao Pedro is odds on to start as well. Gatonga says PSG 4, Chelsea 0. Hopefully. Majon says Reece James or Marquinhos alongside Mendes, Hakimi and Donnarumma. Marquinhos for me. Christian United says, I still have the 12th man. Not sure it will serve me well now. Well, my opinion on that chip is that it's best used earlier in the competition. But to be honest with you, I kind of wish I didn't use it Matchday 1. Obviously, the selection was a bit unfortunate. But yeah, if I'd used the maximum captain back then, I would have gained 19 points. And I would have saved the 12th man for Matchday 2 or something else like that. So yeah, for Matchday 7, it's difficult. I mean, either way, I'd recommend that you have Dembele and Hakimi in your normal team. But let's say you don't. That's an easy way to get one of them in. Other than that, this could be your way of going for 9 PSG players. So that could be the advantage to it. So you might be able to go for a 4-5-1 formation. And technically, with this additional player, you could have 6 midfielders and go for Fabian Ruiz, for example. So that'll be my recommendation, an extra PSG player. So that could be either Beraldo in the defensive line, Fabian Ruiz, Vitinha, João Neves, you name it. I think my favourite that kind of springs to mind would be Fabian Ruiz. Valentino says, hello Dylan, I think I won my league, 24 points, more than second place, no chips left for both of us. Also, I told you 2 big chance created are points, not key passes. Yeah, but the thing is, in the rules, it says 2 chances created, not big chances. And I think there were some examples in the group stages where a player didn't create 2 big chances. They might have created 1 big chance and then had a normal key pass, so to speak, yet they were awarded the pass or the points for that. So I think there's a big inconsistency in the application, and that leads to these kind of misinterpretations or misunderstandings. But that's my big problem with this game. Obviously, the major issue was Matchday 1 and the deadline, which we all know about. I think that obviously affected a lot of people with how they did in the group stages. But yeah, I think with the inconsistent application of points, I think this is the key example with the key passes. Luca de Gabriel says, good evening, Dylan. I already took a -3 and activated the Maxman captain. What's annoying is that every time I want to swap captaincy, I have to turn off the chip, change captain, then reactivate my chip. Yeah, but it doesn't matter because either way, your highest scoring player will be assigned the captaincy automatically, so it doesn't matter. Gatonga says, I think PSG will keep a clean sheet. I can tell by your 4-0 prediction. I also feel the same way, but am I absolutely convinced? Not really. I think Chelsea can score, but I think PSG have been very solid, even defensively in this competition. They have maybe overperformed a little bit defensively. I think the XGC is around 3.74. They've conceded 1 goal, but yeah, I think Chelsea will have some dangerous attackers at the disposal like Palmer and Joao Pedro, but PSG can lock them off. Best 3 forwards to have. Well, Joao Pedro is the obvious standout. I would also say Nkunku and Gonzalo Ramos in isolation, but I'm not going to go for the Portuguese striker because I'm going to favour the PSG defenders and midfielders instead. I don't want to sell one of them or Donnarumma to facilitate Gonzalo Ramos, who won't start in Matchday 7. Oh, are you talking about Trump then? I mean, whoever it is, I mean, yeah, it doesn't really matter who gives the trophy anyway, but yeah, usually you have the presidents involved of FIFA and then of the country that hosts the tournament, but who cares? So Mati says, hola Dylan, gracias por todo el contenido que nos diste durante todo el torneo. Muchas gracias, Mati, y buena suerte para la jornada 7. Gary says, will the Frogs win the UK Lions crush? I'll be honest, I don't really follow that, so let's see what people say. Miguel Correa says, abrazo de Portugal. Gracias, Miguel. Lucas says, I've gone all in on PSG in terms of defence and Dembele, Doué and Kvaratskhelia, but I also have Palmer, Enzo Fernandez and Joao Pedro, who are starting with Nkunku and Delap and Cucurella on the bench. Yeah, I'm going for a similar approach as well. I think the biggest kind of dilemma is, do you go for 5 at the back? I'm open to it, but I think 4 at the back is probably where I'm going to go to. And I'm going to bench Cucurella or whoever I end up going for in terms of Chelsea defence, probably Levi Colwill. There's no real need to really transfer him when, you know, I can use these 6 free transfers to bolster my starting 11 with PSG players. Ousmane Dembele is the big priority. I have to get him in. And to be honest, that's a transfer that I'll probably lock in now just in case, you know, FIFA do something funny with the deadline. But I will put a poll out very soon, and it will be in regards to my kind of final transfers and the big decision I have to make. So that will be kind of addressed very soon. But before I do that, let's cover some different screens. And one of them is going to be the Club World Cup Fantasy Mini League. You can still join. The code is in the description. The same goes for an auto-join link. And for most of this video, you will see it on the top left-hand corner of your screen. A big shout out to everyone who has joined, and those near the top are having a sensational tournament. But let me also show you some polls I've put out already on my channel, and one of them is about starting one of these Chelsea players. I've put Levi Colwill. This could be any differential Chelsea defender like Chalobah. I think both of them will start in central defence. Nkunku, Cucurella and Pedro Neto, and it's very close, as you can see, between Cucurella and Pedro Neto. I'm currently favouring Neto in this scenario because I don't think Chelsea will keep a clean sheet, but Cucurella always has that potential for goals or assists, for a defender at least, but he hasn't really shown it in this tournament. The other poll is in regards to the best midfielder to couple the likes of Dembele, Doué, Kvaratskhelia and Palmer. So the options are João Neves, Fabio Ruiz, Vitinha and Enzo Fernandez. The top pick, according to you, is Fabio Ruiz, and I do agree with that selection. Vitinha is second, Enzo Fernandez is third, and João Neves is fourth. So when the lineups are out, I'll be showing it. I think FlashScore have been very quick with those starting 11s in the last couple of matches, so I'll be keeping an eye on their website and seeing when those lineups are announced, because that will be very important in determining our final transfers. So maybe what I'd advise you to do is bring in the most important players that are almost certain to start, like Ousmane Dembele, Hakimi, you know, these kind of really good options, and then kind of settle them in your starting 11, sort out your captaincy, and if there are any late decisions for you to make, whether you start 2 or 3 forwards, or if you want to go for a back 4, do you even go for Fabio Ruiz as your final transfer, leave that until the end potentially, but not, you know, right until the deadline. I wouldn't recommend that. And if you do get a system error, just click retry and the transfer should go through. It doesn't matter if you don't lock in your starting 11 in terms of subs, you know, after the transfer deadline has locked, because you still have until 8 PM in the UK to sort out your starting 11 and the captaincy. But just make sure that you get your transfers locked in before that deadline in just over an hour's time. I'm also going to show you some graphics which I talked about yesterday in my team selection. So if you want commentary, then I'd advise you to check out that video so you can see my Matchday 6 review. Somehow I got an even smaller green arrow this time round than I did in Matchday 5, which I think was a green arrow of 70 places. This one was of like 30 to 38 places. So yeah, it's a record for me personally of any fantasy game of the smallest ever green arrow. But I want an even bigger one to get into that top 10k, and the maximum captainship could be crucial. The same goes for differentials like Beraldo, who currently has less than 5% ownership. I hope that remains the case before that Matchday 7 deadline. So Fran Garcia to Nuno Mendes is on the cards. The same goes for Gusto to Marquinhos, and Beraldo is probably my priority in this defensive line, because if PSG keep that clean sheet, which I'm backing, he can easily get me 9 points for starting in this final and playing 60 plus minutes overall, because William Pacho and Lucas Hernandez are both suspended with their red cards against Bayern Munich in the quarterfinals. Now in the midfield, this is a transfer I have to make. Ousmane Dembele replacing Jude Bellingham, who was an absolute flop in this tournament, especially in the knockout stages. The same goes for his teammate Vinicius Jr., who will make way, and I'll probably buy Delap and Nkunku to replace Gano and Vinicius Jr. in this position. I think in isolation you would favour João Pedro and maybe Gonzalo Ramos as well. But if I had to pick one other Chelsea forward between Jackson, Nkunku and Delap, I think I'd go for Nkunku. He should start, and he could also play several different roles on the right as a second striker and also up front. That won't be the case, of course, in the Club World Cup final, but I think Nkunku is an astute purchase in this position. So my current plan is to activate the maximum captainship. I might as well, right? There's really no need for me not to do it. Donnarumma will be in goal with a back 4, which is completely full of PSG players here. Hakimi, Marquinhos, Beraldo, and Nuno Mendes, Dembele, Kvaratskhelia, Doué, and then 2 Chelsea midfielders. That's my current plan. I'm also entertaining benching Pedro Neto for Colwill, and if Chelsea keep a clean sheet, I've also got the scouting bonus applied to the Chelsea centre-back, who's also back from suspension now. The same goes for Liam Delap, of course, who missed the semi-finals. And up front, João Pedro is the only one I need, in my personal opinion. But another player I'm actually looking at starting potentially is Christopher Nkunku against his former club, and he would take the place of Pedro Neto in this setup. The rest of my bench comprises of Chelsea players like Robert Sanchez, Levi Colwill, and Liam Delap. And Hakimi is my captain. It's between him and Dembele, but it doesn't matter because with the maximum captainship, you just click it, activate it, and make sure it's saved, and you don't do anything else. And your highest scoring player in your starting 11 will be automatically assigned the captaincy by the end of the match day. I did this a few years ago in the World Cup final where I was going to captain Messi. He scored a brace, got 13 points. But because of that chip, I gained a few additional points because Mbappe scored a World Cup final hat-trick in France's defeat to Argentina. So that is pretty much all you need to know with my team selection and my current plans. Another possible transfer is to bring in Fabian Ruiz for Pedro Neto, but that would mean avoiding one of those forward transfers, being down to 14 men, which to be honest isn't that important because the bench is completely irrelevant. You can't make subs or change the captaincy in matchday 7. I'm also going to show you the odds very quickly. This might help you with some of your decisions with formations, transfers and captaincy. So in terms of goal scorer odds, Ousmane Dembele is top with 44%, and it's pretty much just PSG player after PSG attacker with Gonzalo Ramos, Kvaratskhelia, Barcola and Doué in the top 5, followed by Palmer, Jackson, Delap, João Pedro and Hakimi. For a defender to be that competitive with multiple forwards is impressive, but Hakimi has had a brilliant tournament. He is currently the best right back in world football, and with the clean sheet odds, PSG are the favourites with a 38% probability, and Chelsea only have 15% in this particular metric. And in terms of winning the Club World Cup final, PSG have a 72.7% chance, whilst Chelsea are limited to 27.3%. All these stats are taken by the website fantasyfootballpundit.com, and the last thing I want to show you are some kind of ownership figures and stuff like that, which will be slightly out of date, to be honest. I think Robert Sanchez, for example, has gone... Actually, I need to check that. I'm going to show you very soon with my transfer section, but yeah, these were taken from a few days ago, and I will show you the bracket for the knockout stages and also briefly recap on the suspensions and also unavailable players for PSG and Chelsea. Of course, we all know about Noni Madueke. He left the training ground already. He's in London. He's about to close in a move to Arsenal. Maybe I'll talk about that in an FPL video or two, but we all know the finalists, of course, and how they got here. But for Chelsea, they have no suspensions. Nicholas Jackson returned a few games ago, and in the case of Delap and Colwill, they both missed the semi-finals and are now available. I think Levi Colwill will start in the Club World Cup final, and for Paris Saint-Germain, only 2 unavailable players, William Pacho and Lucas Hernandez, due to that suspension, or the suspensions they picked up against Bayern Munich when they went down to 9 men and still beat the Bavarians 2-0. So now I'm going to go back to my team and also answer your questions. I think that is the best thing to do for now. And yeah, hopefully we don't get a very early deadline at 6 PM. Otherwise, I'm going to just log off the stream, basically. There would be no point whatsoever. But it might be worth locking in some transfers early, like I mentioned before, just in case. I probably should have done it myself, to be honest. Ezra says Kvaratskhelia Ruiz for Enzo and Doué 12th man, or Doué and Neto and Palmer 12th man. Remember, with the 12th man, you can't captain this player. Of course, you can't sub them out, transfer, anything like that. So it's just an additional option. And in terms of the rules of picking 8 players from the same club, that doesn't apply. As long as you don't have that player in your 50-man squad already, you can pick anyone you want. From what you've mentioned there, I think my favourite, I think it'd be Doué 12th man, and also buying one of Kvaratskhelia or Ruiz for Enzo, and I would lean towards Kvaratskhelia. John Boltman says, Dylan, what's up with the non-South African flag? Been out of the loop for a while. I'm not sure what you mean by that. Let me know. But I'll be honest, I'm oblivious to what you're saying there. Gary says, bring on FPL. I'm ready. Yeah, I'm not quite ready yet, I guess. But I'm going to use websites like FPL.team, look at the predicted prices, also analyze the fixtures a little bit more. And there could be a first draft video very soon, a preliminary one. So keep your eyes peeled. But in terms of the game releasing around the 15th of July, it might be a little bit later than that. So we might have to wait another week or so. But maybe that's good for me. It gives me time to make a few videos, prepare, and yeah, kind of get used to it, so to speak. It has been a while. Lookman123 says, what do you think of going Beraldo as a differential option? It's one of my priorities. Dembele for me is the #1 transfer I have to make, but in second is probably Beraldo because it's the only differential way of covering that PSG defense. So I'm on board with that for sure. There are still a lot of questions, by the way, so I do appreciate it. I'm going to go for every single one of them. Just remain patient and they will be answered. And like this video, especially if I've answered any of your questions or been insightful in any way, shape or form, or entertaining, which is impossible for a robot like me, right? Yeah, I still remember your comments from Matchday 1. Sinway says Beraldo could be a good captain. Yeah, I think so. I mean, I'll be honest, Hakimi and Dembele would be my top two, but you might be favouring a 1-0 PSG win or very cagey match, maybe 0-0, and that could be perfect for someone like Beraldo with a scouting bonus, for example. So I'm not against it, but for me, Dembele and Hakimi are the top two picks. Luca says, is there still a chance to change the captaincy after the deadline if you activate Maximum Captain? Because it looks like once I activate Maximum Captain and the deadline passes, I can't change the captain. Once again, Luca, it's not really relevant because the Maximum Captain changes your captaincy automatically to your highest scoring player, so it doesn't really matter who's got it beforehand. It really doesn't. The RT says, Malo Gusto, Dylan, why don't you go with Cucurella or Reece James? Well, I bought Malo Gusto in Matchday 6 because I thought he would start over Reece James, which he did, and he qualified for the scouting bonus. He also showed some attacking promise. We all know he has that quality for a defender. But for Matchday 7, I'm actually looking at selling him, which I showed you a few minutes ago. So you probably know that by now, since this question was posted before I showed those graphics. But yeah, Malo Gusto will not be in my starting 11. I can't activate my max captain. The app says I did, but I didn't. If it's not working through the app, then maybe try the browser on your phone, maybe your tablet or laptop. I'm not sure why it wouldn't work. Maybe you need to deactivate another booster if you got that, active. I'm not sure why that would be the case. But yeah, don't spam the chat, please, because I'm literally answering a question right now. Lager says, yes, I don't doubt that Chelsea actually can do this. Yeah, look, you can never discount anyone in a final. The biggest shock for me recently is PSG hammering Inter Milan the way they did, 5-0. I thought it'd be much closer than that. Hello, mate. Good luck with the game week. Likewise, Fenerbahce. Native Faith says, I'm going to captain Hakimi every match day in the 25-26 UCL campaign. I get why you're saying that right now, but I think he will drop off a little bit next season. I also think PSG might struggle a little bit in certain games. After completing football, basically, they're on the cusp of winning 7 trophies this calendar year. I do think it's natural for a drop-off to happen. And I don't think Hakimi will guarantee you points in every single match day. Maybe I'm wrong, and PSG win every single league phase game, and he gets like 10 pointers each time, but I don't think that'll be the case. That'll be my prediction right now. Robert and Rudy says, who do you think scores in this game? I think Ousmane Dembele, and it's difficult to predict the second one, but I'm going to say Doué. And I've been kind of bullish on him all tournament. He's only really paid off my favour once against Bayern Munich. I think he's played well in a lot of these games, but in terms of goals and assists, he has been underwhelming. Yeah, I forgot Dembele and couldn't get a Chelsea forward because I panicked. Scary early deadline. Well, even if it means a -3, Twisted Parky, I take a hit to get Dembele. SM Moy says, I'm going with Kvaratskhelia max captain, hoping it doesn't go against me. So there might be a miscommunication or misunderstanding about the Maximum Captain booster. So what I'm going to do now is go to the chips slides that I prepared several weeks ago now. So it has been a while. So this is what the Maximum Captain is. Once activated, you will earn double points from whichever player scores the most points from your starting 11. This player will automatically be assigned the captaincy. So a few years ago for the World Cup, it was called the Power Captain, but it worked the exact same way as it does now. So it's not like you captain Kvaratskhelia and you activate Maximum Captain and then you have triple the points or something. It's not the triple captaincy. It's called the Maximum Captain and you don't need to worry about it. So basically your captaincy decision is removed from you, and that's the only real thing you need to know about this particular booster. I even did slides about the best time to use every single chip, and I've been quite consistent that Matchday 7 is a great time to use it because with only one shot at the captaincy, I think this really helps you in just getting your highest scoring player, automatically assigned the captaincy, so you gain more points compared to those not using it in the Club World Cup final. But yeah, that's all been covered throughout all my Club World Cup fantasy content, so don't worry too much about who's got the captaincy. It doesn't matter if you're activating this booster for Matchday 7. So yeah, you can also see my updated version for the knockout stages of the best time to use every single chip. So I said qualification booster back in Matchday 4 for the round of 16, wildcard in Matchday 5, which proved to be a very good time to use it, 12th man in Matchday 6, and the maximum captain in Matchday 7. But that was all discussed at the time. If you still have any questions, let me know. But yeah, I think I've been quite clear on that particular chip in this podcast. What I'm going to do now actually is show you some transfer plans. So let me know in the live chat. There's not a massive difference, by the way. So I'm going to call it options A and B. What you see on screen is option A. And what it means is buying Nuno Mendes, Beraldo, Marquinhos, Nkuku, Delap, and most importantly, Ousmane Dembele. So I think that is probably the safest thing to do. With this team, it's basically what I showed you in my graphics and the team selection video yesterday. A 4-5-1 formation. I'd go for Donnarumma in goal, 4 PSG defenders. In the midfield, I'd go for every single one of them, and Joao Pedro up front. Could I start Colwill or Nkuku over Pedro Neto? Absolutely. Option B would be this. So I would buy Fabian Ruiz in the midfield for Pedro Neto. Up front, I would not get Delap or Jackson. No Gonzalo Ramos, so I'd only buy Nkuku for Vinicius Jr., which gives me the funds necessary to then buy Dembele and all these other transfers I want to make. I can also buy Cucurella. And with this team, I could still go for a back four, to be honest. So it could be Beraldo, Hakimi, Nuno Mendes, and then one of Colwill or Cucurella. All of these midfielders would start, and then Joao Pedro up front. Could Nkuku get the nod? Maybe. So the only real difference there is Fabian Ruiz versus Pedro Neto, I guess, in the midfield. That is the biggest difference. And it also means not having 4 PSG defenders on top of Donnarumma. So let me know what you prefer. Option A or option B, where I get Fabian Ruiz, who I do like the look of, actually, for the Club World Cup final. He's also the highest scoring midfielder left in this competition. I might even put a poll out very soon as well. Thank you to Julio Pena for the first super chat of the evening. Thank you very much. Hi Dylan, I currently have Enzo. Is it worth selling him for Neto and then buying Palmer as my other mid, or just keep Enzo and buy just one of Neto or Palmer? If so, who do you think I should get? That is a good question. And despite Palmer having a very inconsistent 2025, I still think he's the best Chelsea midfielder. Between Pedro Neto and Enzo Fernandez, I think it's very close. I think both of them have been very impressive in this tournament, particularly Pedro Neto. But in recent matches, he has maybe not shown as much goal-scoring threat in the knockout stages. I would probably just buy Palmer, and then with that additional transfer, which you save by not getting Pedro Neto, you could maybe use that to get Beraldo defensively, Ousmane Dembele in the midfield, or perhaps a differential, like Gonzalo Ramos up front. That's probably what I'd recommend to you, Julio, because I don't see a huge difference personally, at least on paper, between Pedro Neto and Enzo Fernandez. But let me know, of course, your thoughts, what you're kind of leaning towards, and I don't think there's a right or wrong here, but that would be my gut take on it. Would you switch Vitinha or Neto to Doué? Yeah, I think I would. I'm not a massive fan of Vitinha in Club World Cup Fantasy, but he's on penalties. I'd probably sell Neto to Doué. Yeah, exactly that, Valentino. But I have been very clear and consistent on that, so hopefully people do understand now. Okay, there are a lot of messages coming in, so let's see if I can whiz through the old ones. I'm not even sure if I can. Best 5 midfielders to have? I'd say in isolation it's Dembele, Doué, Kvaratskhelia, Fabian Ruiz and Palmer. Harry Douglas says Marquinhos and Enzo 4-5-1 or Ruiz and Nkuku 3-5-2. I'm going to go for... I think from what you're saying here, actually, it's really close. I'm going to say Enzo and Marquinhos, but only just. I do like Fabian Ruiz for Matchday 7. Yeah, Twisted Parky, I'm going to play it now in Matchday 7. I used the 12th man in Matchday 1. I wish I used the maximum captain back then. So I've still got it. Hopefully it does give me a few points at least. But yeah, that's my last chip remaining. Easy says, as a Chelsea fan, of course I support them, but PSG gameplay made me worry, especially defensive line with Sanchez in goal. Yeah, I get that. Even your defense isn't particularly great, but offensively you can cause them problems. There's no doubt about it. Is it a final lineup show up? Well, we should get the lineups before the deadline, but let's wait and see what happens. There's no guarantee that it will be the case. Yeah, Donald Trump, not Gianni Infantino. I know you said this a while ago. 4-5-1, 8 PSG, or 5-4-1, 8 PSG. Well, that's my biggest debate right now, Twisted. I'm leaning towards the 4-5-1. World Cup with 48 teams quality is low. Yeah, the good thing about it is that countries that have never qualified before are, have a better chance of qualifying regularly to the World Cup, or, you get different countries. That's the good thing about it, but ultimately the motive behind it is more games, more money. We all know that. Ezra says choose 2, Ruiz, Neves, Barcola, Kvaratskhelia. One will be for Enzo/Neto for 12th man. Yeah, I would go for Kvaratskhelia and Ruiz. Matif says, se emocionó el aficionado del Chelsea, no es la final de la Champions. Estoy de acuerdo. Pero, mira, no me gusta Chelsea, pero lo ganaron 2 veces. Y no sé cómo Arsenal nunca lo ganó, pero bueno. Majon says, hi bro, Marquinhos or Nkuku? Marquinhos for me. Gary says, still have one waiting for deadline team news transfers left. Yeah, that's fair enough. Higher, would you swap Palmer for Ruiz, Neves or Vitinha? I'd keep Palmer, I think. Thank you, Lager. Thanks for serving us content along the way, Mr. Dillon. Much appreciated. Watching this cup wouldn't be the same without you giving out content. That's very kind of you. I'm glad that I've enhanced your experience of watching this somehow, even though I'm a bot, apparently. Valentino says, I'm in the top 700, so do you think Dembele will be a differential? Not a differential, but Hakimi is the absolute template pick. Most people will go for him. That is the safest option. So if you want to go a little bit aggressive, Dembele's probably it, but it's nothing like groundbreaking, earth-shattering, whatever you want to say. But yeah, I'd say Dembele is a little bit more aggressive than Hakimi. Rack says, Vitinha or Fabian Ruiz? It would be Fabian Ruiz. And yes, I know people, I am very far behind. I am sorry, but I'm trying to get for every question. Let's see if I can do that. Ivor Pereira says, my final formation, 4-5-1. Yeah, I've got a similar setup. In fact, apart from... Well, actually, you got 2 Chelsea defenders, Gusto and Cucurella. That's interesting. So your balance is, what, 7-4? Or is it 6-5? So you got Donnarumma, Hakimi, Nuno Mendes, Doué, Kvaratskhelia, Dembele. Yeah, you're going for 6-5. That's fair enough. Absolutely viable strategy. I'm going about it a little bit differently with 8 PSG players. It's a difficult one, Ed Cam. I would lean towards Hakimi because I think PSG will win 2-0. But someone asked me earlier, who do you think will score? I said Dembele and Doué. So, based on that, you'd say, yeah, Dembele's a great option, but Hakimi can combine a clean sheet with an assist and then get 10 plus points again. Christian United says, thanks for the advice, Dylan. 9 PSG players it is. Yeah, with the 12th man, it's worth stressing to those that are like, how do you do that? The only way to get to 9 players for the final from PSG or Chelsea is to use the 12th man chip. Do you think Beraldo? Yeah, cover that, Lookman. And I can't stress that enough. I think Beraldo's a great option. I've been highlighting this in all my content. Basically, this fantasy was a bit of a screw-up. Yeah, I agree. And look, I'm enjoying it still. Even though I feel personally I've lost out on a lot of points based on, system errors and also what happened in Matchday 1, which was a bit of a travesty, to say the least. But I'm still enjoying it. And actually, my thumbnail account is doing even better than I am now, so I'm a bit embarrassed by that. Fabian Ruiz or Neto? Fabian Ruiz in isolation. And that's where my conundrum comes in terms of my transfer plans. Palmer hat-trick is happening. I mean, he hasn't scored a hat-trick in, since the Brighton game, if I'm not mistaken? That was back in August or September. It's been a while. Palmer or Enzo? It would be Palmer for me. The RT says, João Pedro and one more. Who do you recommend? Yeah, I would probably say another PSG defender. Beraldo would be my recommendation. If not, I mean, you got Ruiz already. I like that. Yeah, Beraldo. Sinway says, Beraldo podría ser una buena opción de capitanía. Ah, sí, ya respondí a esta pregunta. Creo que sí, pero mis favoritos son Hakimi y Dembele. Connie says, would your advice be to play a 4-5-1 or 3-5-2? Well, based on my prediction, which is 2-0 PSG, I'd say 4-5-1. Now, there's nothing wrong with 3-5-2 or 5-4-1. These different formations are all viable. Even 3-4-3, which I'm less keen on, but there is a case for it. I think 4-5-1 is probably my favourite, to be honest. Both going all in on PSG, just wondering, do you think it's better to have 2 Chelsea forwards and 1 Chelsea defender? Or 2 Chelsea defenders, 1 Chelsea forward? I'd say 2 Chelsea attackers. It doesn't have to be forwards. You can go for their midfielders like Palmer, Pedro Neto, Enzo Fernandez, etc. Bacon, it's close, but I would lean towards Pedro Neto. There's not much in it. Godsent says, as a Madrid fan, I hope both teams lose. I get that, but unfortunately, there is going to be a winner. I'm not a big fan of all clubs, but let's keep that to the bloody side. I'm joking. That was an exaggeration at the end. But yeah, if I have to pick one, it's going to be PSG out of the two. Ball break. Okay, so yeah, let's see if I can actually catch up. But I should probably put the poll out first, and I think people are asking about a captaincy poll too. So that'll come your way very shortly. Okay, so let's put a poll out. And let's see if I can be as concise as possible. So these are the two options, option A and option B. Okay. Chelsea hate is so funny. It's just a bit of banter, you know. I don't hate Chelsea as much as other clubs, to be honest. It's just a rivalry. I know the Arsenal-Chelsea boards don't have a rivalry. They have something dodgy going on there, but yeah, it's different with the fans, I think. So which of these transfers do you prefer? So this is the first option. I do have Pedro Neto, mate. For the person, yeah. I do have Pedro Neto, but I'm considering selling him to Fabian Ruiz. It's not certain, but I'd rather sell him than Palmer or any of these PSG mids. So yeah. So A, let's put, yeah, Marquinhos and start 4 PSG defenders. Oh, Jesus. I hate the character limit on YouTube, but I think I just about reached it. This one would be Ruiz. So yeah, Neto to Ruiz. Plus start Cucurella, I guess, or start Chelsea F. Yeah, since I can't actually... Just start Chelsea Def. Does that even make sense? Alright, I'm just going to put this poll out. I think that's the most concise way of doing it. Alright, so let's get to your questions again. So I do appreciate the 300 plus that are watching. Let's get the likes up to 100 plus at the very least. I think the overall aim will be 150. So let's see if we can reach that once more. And a big up to everyone who has shown support to the channel throughout this tournament. And FPL will return very soon. So keep your eyes peeled for that. The same goes for UCL Fantasy in late August to early September. Thank you as well to the moderators like Lager for keeping things ticking. Lucas says, I'd be careful with Beraldo's ownership. I got him in when he was 2.8% owned. Now he is at 3.5%. Yeah, when I was setting up the stuff earlier, Beraldo had 3.2% ownership. So that's one to look out for. I think if we get the lineup before the deadline and people see that he's starting, we could see him rise to 4.7. And if it then goes above that, it is squeaky bum time. Who to captain when you don't have the max captaincy? I would say Hakimi or Dembele. So if you are looking to preserve rank, I think Hakimi is the most logical and safest bet. Different avenues to points. I'm backing PSG to win, so those two might be my natural kind of recommendations. So apparently Nkunku isn't starting. If you have a link to that, then let me know, and I will show you very soon. So this poll is very interesting. Marquinhos is the favourite transfer, and also starting 4 PSG defenders on top of Donnarumma. The alternative, if I show you now on screen, would be to get Cucurella, I guess. Maybe start him or Nkunku, or whichever Chelsea striker does start alongside Joao Pedro, and also buying Fabian Ruiz in the midfield. That means Pedro Neto makes way here. So those are the key differences. As I discussed in my team selection, I am leaning towards option A, and it seems like you lot are also recommending the same. Very soon I'll be locking in these transfers, I think, and just setting things up for the final. all you need to do before the deadline is lock in your transfers, and then you've got plenty of time before kickoff to sort out your starting 11 and make sure you're happy with it and your final captaincy choice. My recommendations are Hakimi and Ousmane Dembele. So Delap or Joao Pedro to start? It would be Joao Pedro for me. Now, we could see both of them start simultaneously, by the way. If that's the case, I'd still favour Joao Pedro, but yeah. Someone obviously in the chat did say that Nkunku isn't starting. I'll keep an eye out for that. Well, Weising says we will do it today. Well, I saw Levi Colwill saying something like, we're not Real Madrid. You know, we press bet and all that bullshit. Let's wait and see. Godsent says, I have the entire back five of PSG. Using the 12th man to get Beraldo. Nice. I might just do that with my normal transfers, but the advantage for you is that you can get to 9 PSG players and get Fabian Ruiz in the midfield, which is something I'd like to do, but I just can't have Marquinhos, Beraldo, Nuno Mendes, Hakimi, Donnarumma, and Ruiz without sacrificing somebody. I think Chelsea will be more defensive today. Yeah, I agree. That's why someone like Cucurella, Colwill, Chalobah could be decent picks, but yeah, I don't think it'll be a high-scoring final. I think Fenerbahce, for example, predicted 4-2. Maybe he's right. I'd like to see a high-scoring thriller, but yeah, 2-0 is my current prediction. Tyrion Lannister. Scouting bonus won't apply, I believe. The percentage would shoot up like before the deadline. Well, let's wait and see. People thought that about Malo Gusto in Matchday 6, but he did stay at 4.7% ownership, despite the fact that we were all convinced he could go to beyond 5%. That max captainship is great, especially for the final. Also waiting for the lineup to see if the lap starts. Yeah, and I might buy the lap, but just not start him myself, and that could be a regret of mine come the end of Matchday 7. But yeah, the maximum captainship isn't that powerful, but it's a fun booster, and it kind of removes one headache from fantasy football. Twisted Parky says, the guy that said can't play max captain, just check you are not in transfer mode. It won't work otherwise. Yeah, that's really good advice. Hopefully to those that were having issues with the maximum captain not working or activating, be wary. Make sure that you activate it in the lineup screen, not the transfer section. Yeah, the match could go to extra time. I'm not ruling anything out, and I did say 2-0 PSG, not 4-0, like others would have you to believe. I think anything is possible in this final, including a Chelsea win, but yeah, my prediction is for PSG to do it in 90 minutes. Twisted Parky says need to be a managed team, exactly that. Neto or Fabian Ruiz? I'm going to say Fabian Ruiz. Ivor Pereira says my final formation 4-5-1. Yeah, looks good. I think I read out your team earlier as well. Lock and load, baby, says Gary. Yeah, very soon I'll be locking, don't worry. Even for my standards, I'll be locking in early. Beraldo versus Nuno Mendes. Scouting bonus versus potential attacking returns. Assuming that Beraldo stays below 5% ownership, I'm going to say Beraldo. Now, if Nuno Mendes gets a goal and gets like a 14-pointer, that can happen. It really can. We've seen it with Hakimi early in this competition, with Nuno Mendes in the Nations League final and in the Champions League at times. But yeah, it's not Hakimi, I think. That's another level. You always go for Hakimi all day long. In this scenario, it's closer. I'm going to say Beraldo to be a little bit different to the rest of the pack. Yeah, Chicken Connoisseur's dad with the same prediction as me. 2-0 PSG. Okay, so Flashcore have the lineups apparently. Thank you. Let's cover that now. And I'll still go to your questions, so don't worry about that. Let's see. Refresh the page. It says predicted lineups, though. This is Flashcore, by the way. So yeah, this is not the official one yet. Maybe I jumped the gun. I got a bit too excited. So let's see. But someone did mention Nkunku not starting. I'll have a look through the internet and see if I can get that. I wonder what's happening in tennis as well, because I missed the second set and probably the third one, and yeah. Okay, so Sinner won the second set, and the third one is very close as well. Yeah, great final. Once this deadline stream is over, I will be watching if it's still going on. Yeah, I don't see anything about Nkunku not starting, but I do see a picture of him doing balloons. As a celebration, of course. Yeah, I don't see anything about Nkunku starting or not. Okay. But yeah, in terms of PSG and Chelsea releasing their lineups, we could see that in 20 minutes' time. It's not a guarantee, though. So we could just see everything confirmed after the transfer deadline locks in. But yeah, if you have any links, drop them in the live chat and I'll have a look myself. I think that's the best way to do it so we can be efficient. Keep dropping a like as well on this video. Let's get it to 150 overall. Share this stream as well. Keep your eyes peeled for FPL. Hit the notification bell so you're always up to date with my content. And that includes use your fantasy, which I also cover on this channel. Yeah, look, man, Chelsea can score, but in my prediction, I've gone for 2-0 PSG. Well, that's the thing. PSG have conceded 1 goal in this tournament against Botafogo in that 1-0 loss. In every other game, they've kept clean sheets against Inter Miami, the teams you've mentioned, Seattle Sounders, which isn't maybe that impressive. They conceded quite a lot of big chances, though, in Matchday 3. I think Fabian Ruiz's knee-jerk, well, maybe. I mean, before Matchday 6, he had... What did he have? 19 points? I think he basically doubled his points tally. I just know PSG ain't keeping that clean sheet. Well, no is a strong word. Maybe you're right in the end, but yeah, if you don't feel that way, don't go for PSG defenders, really. Apart from Hakimi, you don't need to go for 3 or 4 like I am. Why do you value Fabian so much? I don't think he's amazing or anything, like he's a must-have. I think he's a quality player in real life. In Club World Cup Fantasy, he'll be inconsistent, so a lot of blanks, but then give you a massive return from time to time. I just think compared to other midfielders, I'd only rank Palmer, Dembele, Kvaratskhelia and Doué above him. So he's my 5th favourite midfielder in the game right now. I'm also backing PSG to win. That plays a big part in it. In isolation, could you say Pedro Neto's better? Maybe, but that hasn't been the case in the last couple of match days. I used the max captain last week. João Pedro gave me a lot of points. Yeah, that was a missed opportunity for me. Yeah, I'm kind of gutted I didn't captain him naturally, and I was quite close to. The same goes for Hakimi in the second game. But Matchday 1 was the one where I had a 19-point swing for not using that chip, and I wasted the 12th man. So Matchday 1 was really a killer for me with the early deadline and then what happened there. Fabian Ruiz or Vitinha? Fabian Ruiz. Now, there is one key difference between both of them, and that's the penalties for the Portuguese international. So if you want to play the odds a little bit, Vitinha is the safer pick, but from open play, I do favour Fabian Ruiz a little bit more, and I also like the fact he's lower owned in general. Well, Gary, you make it seem like Chelsea have no chance. You know, Liverpool beat PSG this season, Aston Villa have, Arsenal, multiple teams have beaten them in the Champions League. You know, they lost 5 games after all. I know since they became a top team, they've only lost 2 games basically. And you could say that was probably in December. So since that loss against Bayern Munich in late November, they've just been amazing with like 3 losses in 40, 50 games. But they are beatable, to be honest. People compare this to, you know, the Barcelona team of old. I think the Barcelona team is significantly better, personally. But yeah, there's still other questions that I've missed out on, it looks like. Let's see if I can cover them. There are so many to go through. Beraldo or Cucurella? I'm going to say Beraldo. Imagine you have all the PSG defenders in the team, then Chelsea score. Well, yeah, easy. But then if PSG score, then all the Chelsea clean sheets are also over. With finals, you typically get a lower scoring match day compared to, you know, the group stages in particular, but even the round of 16 and stuff like that. But yeah, you've only got 2 teams to choose from. You've got a lot of clashes. You're forced to pick 3 players from the finalist that you think will lose in the end. So yeah, you have to play it your way. And if you think Chelsea or PSG keep a clean sheet, my advice is to go all in on that defence. Twisted Parky says, I don't really care about the predicted prices. We'll just look when they drop. Oh, with FPL, yeah, that's a good point. But you can use that as like a foundation. I'm not going to look too much into it and use it as gospel, but typically FPL.team and these websites will only be 0.5 to 1 million off unless you get a huge surprise with some of the pricing. Dylan, just because you're activating Max Captain, I recommend having 1 defender from Chelsea. Yeah, that's not a bad strategy. I mean, I've got Levi Colwill already in place, so I could just start him anyway. I don't think that's a bad idea, to be fair. Brian Grady says, cheers from Georgia. Great analysis as always, Dylan. We're rooting for Kvaratskhelia to get another trophy over here. Yeah, he's a quality player. I wish Arsenal went for him in January. I think PSG got him for 60, 70 million in the end. And now we're going for Madueke for 48 million plus 4 million add-ons. But there you go. Josh says, hi Dylan, sorry I just joined. No worries. How about Donnarumma, Hakimi, Cucurella, Mendes, Beraldo, Kvaratskhelia, Dembele, Pedro Neto, Enzo, Vitinha, João Pedro, with a bench of Delap, Nkuku, Colwill. I like the look of it. One thing I'd consider is starting Colwill over Cucurella. You know, if he stays at 5% ownership or below, he can qualify for the scouting bonus if Chelsea keep a clean sheet, which is unlikely, but still possible. So that's something I'd recommend potentially. Apart from that, I do like the look of your team. In the midfield, I'd recommend Doué. I know he's template, but I'm quite bullish on Doué for the final. If you were chasing, which 8 Chelsea would you pick? And let me get off the screen, by the way, since these are still predicted lineups as far as I'm aware. So let's go to my transfer section. Okay, so if I had to pick 8 Chelsea players, it would be Robert Sanchez in goal, Levi Colwill, Chalobah, Cucurella, Palmer, Pedro Neto, João Pedro. I think the 8th one is whichever Chelsea forward starts, whether that's Delap, Nkuku, or Jackson, which I'm not so sure about, to be honest. I think I'd be more keen on Delap, but that would be my 8 recommendation for Chelsea. For PSG, my favourite 8 would be Donnarumma, Hakimi, Nuno Mendes, Beraldo, Marquinhos, Dembele, Doué, Kvaratskhelia. I think that's probably my favourite, and that's likely what I'll go for. Now, you could substitute Marquinhos for Fabian Ruiz in that sort of scenario, to be fair. Even Vitinha, who's more template, if you're looking to protect rank, that could be a great option for you as well. But yeah, I think that's a good question. It's been 7 years playing fantasy games on every format, never won anything. Is it worth playing for a lifetime? Well, it's about having fun, right? And the chance of winning it are very, very slim. I mean, it's difficult. You've got a lot of competition, even in a game like this with 200,000 players or so, and you get some ridiculous scores and luck and great decisions being made. But, you've got to just keep at it, improve your decision-making process, and I think finding a playstyle that suits you gives you a better platform for success and getting more luck in the future. And you never know, one day you could be sitting number 1 in FPL, UCL Fantasy, and maybe even win it. So you just got to keep playing, have fun, enjoy the process, and I think, yeah, you can have one stage where you're competing for winning the whole thing. Sell Neto or Enzo for Kvaratskhelia, it would be Enzo Fernandez. Not much in it between those two, but that would be my recommendation. Beraldo as captain, only problem is he isn't likely to score. Yeah, I agree, and he does get quite a few yellow cards from what I've seen in Ligue 1, but yeah, as a differential defender, I'm not against that. Kvaratskhelia has added that extra dimension, and PSG have been brilliant. Yeah, Kvaratskhelia is not a goals or assist player, but he's adding more of them to his game. He scored in the Champions League final, quality dribbler, and his ball control is up there with the best in world football. Kevy says, if Arsenal managed to get Gyökeres, do you think you'd have him in FPL Game Week 1? It's possible, and I would like that against Leeds United in Game Week 2, but Arsenal have a really tough start. Liverpool away in Matchday 3, Man City, Newcastle in the opening 6. So it depends on the pricing as well. I might just go for Isak in that sort of scenario, but I'll cover that in FPL streams as well. So yeah, it's going to be impossible, I think, to cover every single question from before. So what I'm going to do is cover all the member questions and then get back to the present so we can cover any remaining topics, things I haven't really talked about yet, or, covering different stuff. Dragon says, hi Dylan, would keep Vitinha and add Doué or Ruiz or sell him to get both? I would keep Vitinha and just buy Doué. Good question though. I was predicting a 4-2 PSG win. Yeah. I think I said that unless I accidentally said 4-2 Chelsea, but I think I did say that. Yeah, Sinway, you can still make transfers, don't worry about it. I first saw Brighton in 1991. If that does not make me a Brighton fan, what does? Oh yeah, that's definitely hardcore, that's for sure. I thought because of your name, 06, I thought you were like 19 years old or something. Feremi says, I'm a diehard fan of Spain Tiki-Taka since 2010 World Cup. I used to love that team, to be honest, and I still like it. I remember it fondly. But yeah, now with Spain, they're a really good team now, but I like them less, and I think the players they have also play a big part in that. I just think before, you can't hate on a team like that, full of quality, and they were clearly the best team in world football back then. Now they're up there with Argentina and France and all these different countries. Fenerbahce says, I already have 6 players from each team last week, so not much to do with the 6 free transfers. I don't mind Barcola as well, even if he's benched, still a differential. Yeah, that's a fair shout, actually. Nice. I think Barcola is a good shout as a bench option. The minutes won't be great, but he can score the winning goal. And he looked really good against Real Madrid. So, Yeah, I'm also in a similar boat where with 6 free transfers, I'm kind of like in two minds about what to do, simply because I'm kind of well set. So I'm basically just being very picky with my final transfers. Yeah, Ruiz would be a risky captain. It's not to say it's a bad one, but my favourites have to be very consistent on it. Hakimi and Dembele, they're template, but there's a good reason for it. And you can go differential with your structure with 8 PSG or 8 Chelsea, and also your formation. Yeah, nightmare's possible, but it's not a guarantee. Yeah, Birch, once more, it doesn't matter if you got Dembele captain or whoever. The maximum captain just changes your captaincy to your highest scoring player. That's all you need to know. I think Beraldo soars over 5% ownership once the deadlines are out, and engaged managers lock in their transfers. If so, is Marquinhos a better option? Yeah, I think Marquinhos is a better option, assuming that Beraldo's ownership does rise to above 5%. What I'm going to do actually is go to Club World Cup Fantasy, the website again, and quickly check the updated version and see if Beraldo has 5% ownership or not. So he's currently at 3.7%. Now, I'm not sure if it's fully updated, to be fair. Maybe he's at 4.5 already, but we just don't see it yet. But I think we're safe for now. Let's keep him a secret, just in case. I'm going to buy him, I think, anyway. And what I might end up doing is benching Marquinhos and starting Colwill and having that sort of Chelsea differential coverage. So with this poll, it is quite close, but Marquinhos and starting 4 PSG defenders is winning. Neto to Ruiz and starting a Chelsea defender is not too far behind, but it is losing the poll with 44% of the votes. I'll probably end it soon when we get to 200, and then put one final poll for my own team situation, and then afterwards I might do something a little bit different. I think I'll start with 3 defenders. Don't really like the ceiling of many defenders this week, as I was predicting both teams to score. Yeah, look, everyone's got their own opinions. I get that. You've been quite consistent about your 4-2 prediction, so a 3-5-2 makes a lot of sense there. And I did say that in the comment section in the recent videos. But for me, I'm backing a lower scoring game. I think PSG can keep a clean sheet, so 4 defenders is viable. And also with the forwards, I just don't really have that sort of optimism with a lot of their minutes. And picking between Gonzalo Ramos, Delap, Jackson and Nkunku, there's not really much in it because none of them are great, in my opinion. Chelsea tweeted team news coming soon. Yeah, we could see that in the next 10-15 minutes potentially, but there's no guarantee. James is a good pick because he definitely will get subbed off like 60-70 minutes. Yeah, from that perspective, he's not too bad. The problem is, does he get injured in the warm-up like he did in Matchday 5? Does he even make it to 60 minutes because he can be subbed off for 4? That's the problem with Reece James. And if PSG win or score a lot of goals, then yeah, there's a lot that can go wrong with that pick as well. Okay, so lineups are out on Flash Score. Someone said that earlier and it wasn't, but I do trust the multiple people who said that now. So, starting lineups for Chelsea, Robert Sanchez, Caicedo, who wasn't injured out. That's a massive boost for Chelsea. Chalobah, Levi Colwill, Cucurella, Enzo Fernandez, Gusto, Reece James, João Pedro, Pedro Neto and Palmer. So Nkunku is on the bench and both Gusto and James start together. So I think from this provisional lineup, we'll probably see Palmer on the right, Neto on the left, Enzo Fernandez attacking midfield, João Pedro up front, Caicedo and Reece James in the midfield. And then Gusto on the right, Cucurella on the left, Colwill, Chalobah in central defence. For Paris Saint-Germain, Donnarumma, Beraldo are hopeful differential. Ousmane Dembele, Doué, Hakimi, Kvaratskhelia, Marquinhos, Nuno Mendes, João Neves, Fabian Ruiz and Vitinha. So no surprises whatsoever for Paris Saint-Germain. But for Chelsea, Nkunku's on the bench. So something a little bit different there with Gusto and James starting together. There you go. Both lineups have been confirmed, according to Flash Score. I will be covering that very soon. A quick look at the benches, and Chelsea are stacked with their squad, even with the departure of Noni Madueke. So Tosin Adarabioyo doesn't make it to the starting 11, so don't start him. I'd also be looking to sell potentially in some cases. Andre Santos, the Argentine there who made a cameo in Matchday 6, Liam Delap, Dewsbury Hall, Tyrick George, Mark Guiu, Nicholas Jackson, Jorgensen, Romeo Lavia, Nkunku, Sarr, who I think is one of their new signings, but Yeah, pretty much. Actually, no, is that Malang Sarr? That might be different to the Sarr they signed. I lose track of the Chelsea signings, to be honest. For PSG, Barcola, Gabriel Moscardo, Camara, Kimpembe, Kang-in Lee, who would be on penalties, by the way, if he is on the pitch. So keep an eye for that situation. We saw that in this tournament as well. Mayulu, Mbai, Gonzalo Ramos, Safonov, Zaire Emery. Yeah, that is the bench there for Paris Saint-Germain too. So both teams have been covered. I'll leave that on for a few more seconds and then go back to my transfers. I'm going to lock them in, I think. And yeah, hopefully my differential, so to speak, of Beraldo remains a differential with less than 5% ownership. João Neves as a differential worth it? Yeah, I think so. He can get tackle points. He has that sort of ability to get a goal or assist from time to time. But in terms of open play threat, Doué, Kvaratskhelia, Dembele are obviously levels above. And then you've got Fabian Ruiz, who I think would be ahead. Vitinha has penalties, so yeah, it's a differential for a reason. But I'm not against it. I think he's a decent option. Not my favourite, though. I don't think I'll go for him in the end. Wow, JIT says I'm expecting an absolute mauling. Hopefully, in the case of Paris Saint-Germain, but you never know in football. N Tenju says, hey Dylan, had a blast playing this Club World Cup Fantasy. Thanks for the coverage. Very kind of you, and I'm glad that people are enjoying it in the end. Lukman says, you're my favourite fantasy YouTuber. Thanks for your tips. Also very kind of you, and hopefully I can see you in FPL and use your fantasy in a few weeks to months' time. And to be honest with FPL, there could be videos imminent, so stay tuned. Will we get early deadline, or will Chelsea leave it late? Well, the lineups are out, mate. First time watching the stream in my garden. Nice. I wish I was in my garden doing this. It'd be a bit cooler for me. Seems like 4-5-1 seems very obvious. Sometimes the obvious thing isn't always the best, to be honest with you. Yeah, Mamadou Sarr, not Malang Sarr. I think he got sold, actually, right? The one they signed from Porto. So yeah, that is Mamadou Sarr. Okay, thank you for clearing that up, just in case. Any leaks yet, Dylan? Well, the lineups are out. That's all you need to know, I think. Clean sheet points get wiped even if your player has been subbed off before the goals. Well, let me double check that, because I think there was an example. I'm not so sure if that is the case. But yeah, if people know for sure, then let me know in the live chat. I had both James and Gusto last week. Starting in midfield, Reece James looks like a good option, as there aren't any other starting forwards other than Pedro. Yeah, and if he gets 60 plus minutes, he could be a decent asset. If the game is cagey, you can lock in a clean sheet potentially, if that's how it works. Who knows with this game? I don't think Lee is on penalties. I think Vitinha just gave it to him for a confidence boost. Yeah, you might be right, to be fair. Vitinha is obviously the main penalty taker, despite missing the recent one against Arsenal. And yeah, you would expect Vitinha to take, you know, a penalty in the Club World Cup final, to be honest. Arsenal almost completing the signing of Gyökeres, hopefully. I'll have a look after the stream, or after the deadline passes anyway, when I can fully focus. That could maybe boost my mood a little bit. Madueke is not going to do that for me, but Gyökeres, I think, will get people back on side. Neto or Enzo? As covered before, Pedro Neto is a slight preference of mine, but Enzo Fernandez is playing in attacking midfield, and I think this formation by Chelsea with Gusto and Reece James, I think will push Enzo Fernandez to that attacking midfield position once more. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's what I was kind of looking towards. I was also considering PSG. You know, Hakimi, I mean, the clean sheet wasn't wiped out anyway. PSG kept it in the end, but yeah, clean sheets aren't wiped out, so that is false. Check Trent versus Dortmund. Yeah, exactly. That's the one I was thinking of to kind of prove it wrong, but yeah. It's basically like any other fantasy game. FPL, UCL Fantasy, Euros, World Cup. So yeah, nothing different there. Arsenal was late on Sarr, says Valentino. Sammy says not true. Check James versus Benfica. I think it was. Yeah, the clean sheets should be locked in. David Ornstein tweet. Nice. Yeah, I think there was a picture of Arsenal sporting director Andrea Berta. Like he was talking to a fan and he was basically saying, yeah, we're going to get it done. I'm also wondering what's happening in Wimbledon. I wish I was seeing that. Yannick Sinner won the second set as well. Wow. Yeah, I wish I was watching that. Yeah, it could be over in the fourth set. I think Alcaraz will probably, well, he'll give it his all. We all know that. But yeah, great match going on. Might watch the highlights, to be honest. Or put it on now. Sanchez to Donnarumma for a -3. I'm not sure if it's worth a -3, to be fair. I'll just keep Sanchez and start all your PSG defenders, personally. Ruiz or Beraldo, 12th man? That's a good question. I'm going to say Beraldo based on my prediction, but only if he remains at 5% ownership or below. There is a super chat in the building. Thank you very much. Sheriff, Jaime having the 5 PSG defenders, Enzo Fernandez, Palmer, João Pedro from Chelsea. The 3 mids from PSG torn between Dembele, Ruiz, Vitinha, Kvaratskhelia, Doué. Yeah, I get that. Dembele is obviously number 1 for me. I would put Doué in second, even though in this tournament he's arguably the worst of the lot. In third, I'd put Kvaratskhelia. Fourth would be Ruiz, and Vitinha in fifth. But the big settler for some of those midfielders is the fact that Vitinha is on penalties. So that could obviously, I'm not Dutch or something like that, but it can equalise things a little bit. So yeah, that's my ranking of those 5 midfielders, and I'm quite happy to keep Dembele, Doué, and Kvaratskhelia myself. Richard says, thoughts on João Neves? I did cover your question earlier. Richard, the tackle points obviously is a plus point for him, but he doesn't have the penalties like Vitinha, the attacking threat of the other 3, and I think Ruiz from open play will have more goal scoring potential. But he is a decent differential. I'm not against it, but I'm not going to buy him myself, to be honest. Andrea says, Sinner's just better. Maybe you're just Italian, based on your name. I'm just saying. I think they're both really evenly matched. Obviously, I don't know how Sinner didn't win in the French Open. Great comeback by Alcaraz, so don't rule him out. Captain, Dembele or Hakimi? Probably Hakimi for me. Very close. Dembele is a narrow second. I think there's not much in it. That is currently what I'm going for. Dembele is my 12th man. Just remember, you can't captain him. So based on that, I'd captain Hakimi, 12th man Dembele. If you're kind of settled on that, then fair enough. But yeah, I think that's a good option. Start Chalobah, 3% owned, or Cucurella. I'd take a punt on Chalobah. Cucurella's attacking ownership or attacking potential will be better. But yeah, I think Chalobah with the potential scouting bonus points, and of course he has to keep a clean sheet for that or score, do something a bit miraculous, then yeah, I think that could be the way to go. Cucurella or Pedro Neto? That's one of my biggest debates right now, and I think I'm going to go for Neto because I think PSG will win and also keep the clean sheet. But I think Neto, yeah, it's more likely that PSG score multiple goals and then Cucurella goes down to 1-0 points, whilst Neto can give you 2 to 3 at least. But that's just my personal take on it. Let's now lock in some transfers, since if I don't, I might regret it. But what I might have to do one more time is ensure that Beraldo's ownership is less than 5%. So let's have a look. Lucas Beraldo has 3.7. I think it might be stuck. I think you probably feel the same way, right? Yeah, he could be stuck at 3.7%. Doué or Kvaratskhelia, if you can only pick one, Doué. Best captain, Hakimi or Dembele. It all depends on your prediction. If you're backing a PSG clean sheet like I am, I'd say Hakimi, and it's also the best way to preserve rank in my opinion. Different avenues to points, the most template pick. But Dembele, I think he's going to score today, or at least give an assist. So yeah, it's really close between those two, and there's a massive gap between Hakimi and Dembele with the rest of the Club World Cup fantasy options. Start Cucurella or Delap? It's a close one, to be honest. I'd probably go for Cucurella, just in case Chelsea keep a clean sheet somehow and you've got that sort of insurance policy. But yeah, Delap isn't a terrible shout, to be fair. Not a terrible one. But yeah, the minutes are just all over the place. That's my main concern with Delap. And obviously with the formation that Chelsea are playing now, it's João Pedro up front, Neto and Palm on the wings. You know, you could say Enzo Fernandez as the box-to-box or attacking midfielder. I think Delap just has a cameo off the bench, but yeah, could he do something? Absolutely. But I'd probably favour Cucurella. Yeah, Andrea, look, we're quite limited in our options, aren't we? But you've got some differential defenders like Chalobah and Beraldo. It's all about how you structure your starting 11 now. That's the most important thing. So you've got Sanchez, Chalobah and Cucu and Delap on your bench. I'd start João Pedro, to be honest. I wouldn't bench him. I'd consider starting Chalobah over Cucurella. That's what I'd say. That's kind of a differential way of doing it. Okay, so apparently Beraldo has 4.8% ownership. That's interesting. I'm going to check the app as well. I think that could be the best way to do it. Not a great time for my phone to bug out. Well, I think Beraldo will be a popular transfer now. Apart from Dembele and the obvious ones, I think people will be going for that differential PSG defender, and then he doesn't become a differential anymore. Not in the way we want to, with the qualification bonus or scouting bonus. So let's see. I'm checking the app now. I'm not really too optimistic that he stays at 5%, but I really hope he does, because that is kind of my gateway, I think, into the top 10k potentially. For some reason on my app, it also is stuck at 3.7%. So who knows? Easy says Pedro Neto. Yeah, once again, maximum captain, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who you've got captain, because it might not be Pedro Neto. It could be Sanchez, or it could be any PSG player. So, yeah. Will I get my one unused transfer after 4 years? No, I can tell you that with confidence. James over Cucurella. Yeah, that's a decent shout. I don't think his ownership... I have to double check it with Reece James. I don't think it's a differential with 5% or below, but maybe I'm wrong. Yeah, 15.9%. But in terms of attacking threat, I think that's fairly solid overall. All right, so what I'm going to do here is lock these transfers in. So Nuno Mendes will be one of my top priorities in the defensive line, with Beraldo, who hopefully stays below 5% ownership. Marquinhos will likely be my final PSG option here. In the midfield, I would buy Ousmane Dembele. That is the clear standout for me. And then get Nkuku and Delap, who are both benched anyway. Now, as I showed you in the second option, I could leave one of those forwards out, buy Fabian Ruiz for Pedro Neto, buy Beraldo in the defensive line with Nuno Mendes, and then get Cucurella or Reece James. So that could still happen. And in this scenario, I would go for Donnarumma in goal, 3 PSG defenders, probably Colwill, and then go for all the midfielders, and then João Pedro up front. But I think what I'm going to do is this. It doesn't seem like much. There's not really too much separating these two teams, but it can come down to that one split decision, 50-50 call. We all know how fantasy games are, but I'm going to stick with my gut. I've been quite consistent on this from the beginning. So as you can see, Gusto, and these other options like Ignacio, Fran Garcia, Bellingham, Vinicius Jr. and Gano would make way. And I think that's what I'm going to end up sticking with. Yeah, Gonzalo Ramos in isolation would be the second best forward in my opinion, behind João Pedro. But I'd rather have the PSG midfielders like Ruiz, the 3 I've got, who are really attacking. You know, they're playing as wingers and strikers there. Hakimi goes without saying, Donnarumma in goal. More defenders like Nuno Mendes and Beraldo. All of them would be a priority over Gonzalo Ramos, who might score the winning goal or just have an impact off the bench. But yeah, the appearance points and also the minutes aren't going to be that great in general. Yeah, Godson, that's a good position to be in. You know, nothing to worry about there, unless you've taken a lot of hits. Yeah, I'm not so sure. I think he's going to be at 5% ownership, there or thereabouts. I just hope that he qualifies for the scouting bonus. But I'm going to buy him regardless. Let's see how it goes. As soon as I confirm it, watch. It's going to say, oh yeah, he's got more than 5%. That'll be typical. So yeah, like the look of that. 7 Chelsea, 8 PSG, 450-man squad. But I will be going for 8 PSG in my starting 11. We are locked in. Almost. Because there are still some things to do. So, let's bring in Beraldo here. And I'm also going to have the timer, for those that maybe aren't aware. We are minutes away from the deadline. So, that should work. Okay. So, Beraldo comes in for Nkuku. And this will be my final decision, I think. Do I start Colwill defensively and have 4 Chelsea players? Yeah, that's kind of the big dilemma, I think. I'm going to put up one final poll and see what you lot think. But the Marquinhos route and 4 defenders is what you prefer. And that's what I've gone for at the moment. I have done this before. I prefer Ruiz over Neto in isolation. Cree says don't put Colwill. That's fair enough. It's going to lock if Bro doesn't lock in. Yeah, don't worry. I'm fine with this. Yes, Andrea, but I'm not sure if you're replying to somebody else. You can make subs after the deadline passes, which is in, what, 3-4 minutes time. You can't make transfers, though. That's when the transfer deadline is locked. You're stuck with your 50-man squad, then you have to sort it out. Once the game starts, you cannot make any changes, whether it's the captaincy or subs, which is what your question is in reference to. So hopefully you've got that. Sammy says, I have one more transfer left. I have Joao Neves. Should I switch to Ruiz or Vitinha? I don't think you need to either way, but Vitinha is the safest template pick on penalties. Ruiz is my favourite. I do think a lot of people are maybe chasing last week's points because he got a massive return. Before that, he had like 18, 19 points in the competition in 5 match days. I think 4 PSG mids to maximise max captain chance. That's fair enough, Carlo. I've already kind of made my bed anyway, but I can go for the 4 PSG defenders anyway. And I've still got time after the transfer deadline locks in, so I'm not too bothered anyway. But let's put this poll out as well. So who would you start? I think that's the key question. Let's put Colwill, even though some people in the chat are already saying no, which I understand. Marquinhos and I think, yeah, it's between Pedro Neto as well. Yeah, Pedro Neto. So who would you bench? I think that's the best thing to say. Okay. I'm just going to put Neto just to avoid the confusion with Joao Pedro as well. Yeah, there you go. That's the poll. We've got 1 minute left. Let's see if there's anything else. Neto versus Fernandes got 1 extra transfer. I prefer Pedro Neto ever so slightly. There's not much in it. James or Beraldo? I'm going to say Beraldo. At the moment, he qualifies for the scouting bonus, and I'm backing a PSG clean sheet. Yeah, John says bench Colwill. That's fair enough. 12th man or max captain? That's a difficult one. I'm going to say max captain because as good as Hakimi and Dembele are, it's difficult to kind of choose between those two, and then you can get a surprise high-scoring player like Fabian Ruiz or maybe, let's say, Pedro Neto. So I think maximum captain is probably best. 100% free defender says Christian. So in this poll, Colwill is the sacrifice with 55% of the votes. Marquinhos is second, and Neto is in third. Enzo with free kicks corners. Well, look, if you prefer Enzo Fernandez, go for it. I don't think there's much in it anyway, but in terms of open play threat, I think Neto is more likely to score and also get assists. I think both of them are decent. Bench Colwill because he'll get negative points. Yeah, but so could Cucurella, to be fair. I know he's not in my poll, but I think people are more open to go for him because of attacking threat and stuff like that, but we could see all Chelsea defenders end up on negative points or 0. Hopefully that happens. Yeah, I'm going to say Cucurella once more, Ezra. I did say this earlier as well. I'm not sure Sinway. According to this, it says 3.7%. I think that's bugged. I think he's gone over at least 4.5%. Sinner 3-2 up with serve next game. So he broke again. Wow. I mean, it did seem kind of odd how in the first set he was, he had command of it with the early break, and then Alcaraz just completely changed it. But then the way Sinner started the second set was really impressive, and then obviously I started the stream, but yeah, it's about time he beats Alcaraz after 5 consecutive losses. Let's see if he wraps it up, though. It's not over yet. Andy Burton says, James, Palmer, Pedro, 12th man, rest all PSG defenders and mids. Okay, fair enough. I mean, play it your way, right? Max captain, definitely. A defender mid could be the man of the match. I agree. I think that's the way to go. And if you're backing Chelsea to win, go for more Chelsea players. In terms of the balance, I think, to be honest, it's best to go for 7 or 8 from the club you're backing to win, whether it's PSG or Chelsea. And as you can see in my approach, it's 8 PSG and 3 Chelsea. Or is it? Well, yeah, that's what I'm probably going to do. I've still got time. Remember, you can still make substitutions right now, and you can change your captain but the transfers are locked. We can no longer make any transfers. So yeah, the deadline has passed. Easy says 352 with Ramos as my final transfer. Marquinhos as a backup sub-transfer if Ramos doesn't play the entire match. Yeah, that's worth mentioning as well. I don't think that'll happen, by the way. I think Gonzalo Ramos will get a cameo, and it could be a one-pointer, could be 6 or more, but yeah. Because we can't make manual subs, automatic substitutions will take place if someone in your starting 11 doesn't play a single minute. So if you pick Reece James and for some reason he doesn't start the final and he's pulled out in the warm-up, then you can have that change take place as well. I always play 3 defenders in any fantasy game. I usually do as well, but there are occasions where I play a back 4, and in finals it has worked out very well for me in the past, especially in the Champions League. I did something similar with Real Madrid, Borussia Dortmund. Real Madrid won 2-0. I had Carvajal as one of my transfers. He won man of the match, got 14 points, scored a goal. So then having him, Hummels, and then 2 more Madrid defenders, I think it was really helpful in finishing in a very high rank there, around 800. So it's all about having your own different playstyles. But yeah, I think for the final, based on my prediction as well, I'm going to go for a back 4. I can still change it, by the way. I'm still quite open-minded. Could even be a back 5. That is the beauty, I guess, of Club World Cup Fantasy. You can still make a few changes before kickoff. That's one of the good things about it, in my opinion. Yeah, we are locked with transfers, but not with the starting 11. You can still make some modifications because the deadline, or the match, starts in 58 minutes, give or take. There's probably going to be a ceremony and, you know, this NBA-style entrances. So it might start like 8-5 or something like that, but yeah, I think that particular deadline for the substitutions and stuff will be in 57 minutes now. I've just swapped Marquinhos and Neto for Reece James and Fabian Ruiz. Fair enough. Difficult to kind of separate all of them, but my favourites would be Marquinhos and Neto. I mean, in isolation, to be fair, I would probably go for Fabian Ruiz over Neto. I can tell that easy. That's fair enough. You're not the only one. I think it's quite split in terms of whether PSG keep a clean sheet or not. So some in the chat have said 2-0, 4-0. Others have said no, it's going to be a high-scoring game. Dida says locked. Yes, we are indeed, somewhat. Gary says rest in peace, Club World Cup. Well, the final's still going to take place soon. You might like it. Yeah, so Beraldo should qualify. Yeah, so I saw this with Cambiasso in Matchday 1. He should qualify, yes. If I maybe show you quickly, let me refresh this. Okay. So let's confirm this. Or can I even see? Yeah, 5%. Yeah, he's going to qualify if the game is consistent because, oh, look at this captaincy. Cambiasso. Wait, what? Oh, they're not showing me. But basically, oh, wait. Boludo. Cambiasso here. Look, 5% ownership, Cambiasso, and he qualified for the scouting bonus. Do you see that example? I remembered it. Forget about the captaincy in Matchday 1. That never happened. But yeah, 5% ownership. Still got the scouting bonus because he got the assist and he got 7 points overall. So yeah, Beraldo should qualify for the scouting bonus if Club World Cup Fantasy are consistent, which to be honest, we can't really trust them in that regard. But yeah, it looks like Beraldo has 5% ownership and that is the hand we are dealt. Yeah, we'll just close that. All of this is done as well. And yeah, we are approaching the final now. Yeah, I'd say it's good, FPL Scott, but you never know this game. Obviously, we would have known for sure if he had 4.9% or below, then there's no doubts about it. But with 5%, there is an element of doubt. I'd still be fairly confident he will qualify, assuming that PSG keep a clean sheet. I don't see Beraldo getting more than 4 points without that. I think, yeah, the qualification bonus can still be played, and I guess the winner of the game, you know, if you've got 8 PSG players and they win the final, you will get additional points for all of them. But my recommendation was to use it earlier. It wasn't great for me in round of 16, and to be honest, my chip usage hasn't been great all tournament. I'm really hoping the Maximum Captain can make up for it here in Matchday 7. Yeah, that's fair enough, Juniper. I'm also considering that myself with Cole Will. He's my only option, to be fair. With Nkuku and Delap on the bench, I'm not really looking in that direction. Yeah, use the qualification chip now if you can. Yeah. Yeah, you can still do that, right? Actually, let's see. I don't think you can. Yeah, no, you can't. Um, that's the thing. So apart from transfers, the chips are locked in at the deadline. So the only thing you can do now is change your captain and sort out your starting 11. So you still have time for that, but not all the chips. Bye bye Club World Cup Fantasy. Welcome next year FIFA World Cup Fantasy. Yeah, it was possible that I wasn't going to cover this one anyway, and this would have been my somewhat little break for the first time in years. But yeah, with the World Cup, it's very likely I'll cover that as well, like I did last time. That was a blast, and there was a lot of people watching. The Euros last summer and the previous tournament as well, 3 years ago. So there's a lot of different fantasy games I've covered, and this is yet another one to add to the extensive collection. Good luck, Morpheus, as well. Good to see you as always. Twisted Parky says, I decided to be different. A little different. Get Neves instead of Ruiz for Neto, and keeping Cucurella instead of getting Marquinhos, already thinking maybe I got this the wrong way round. It can always go that way, 50-50 calls. There's not much in it on paper, but we can get those massive swings anyway. Bro, I never thought so many people would be spamming Beraldo in a deadline stream. Yeah, but that's one of the biggest sort of differentials you can go for in Club World Cup Fantasy at this stage, so it does make sense. So without the scouting bonus, I think Cucurella is better than Colwill because of the attacking threat, but because Colwill has that low ownership, so what, 3.9%? Yeah, that's the good thing. If Chelsea keep a clean sheet, then Colwill can give you 9 points or maybe 8 because he loves getting yellow cards. Andy Burton says you can't play a Fantasy Cup game safe. You have to put your eggs in one basket at some point in the final. Yeah. I think I'm quite happy with my approach, to be honest. Between match days 2 and 6, I've done fairly well. Green arrow after a terrible start. I just think match day 1 really set me back, to be quite honest with you, with the premature deadline, but it is what it is. Match day 7, I'm always quite consistent with this. I tend to favour one team. With the World Cup a few years ago, I think I also went all in on Argentina with a few France players like Mbappe and stuff like that. Euros as well. With Spain, England, I think I went for more Spain. I think it was 7 Spain, 4 England. I just got my captaincy wrong, I think, on that particular occasion. And in UCL Fantasy, I usually take that sort of approach. It can go completely wrong, sorry. I think, for example, I went for all Man City players, like 8 Man City, 3 Chelsea. And obviously Chelsea won the Champions League final. Hoping that doesn't happen here today, at least. I also went for something else similar to that. Yeah, I think Bayern Munich, PSG? Nah, I think I went for more Bayern Munich players, but I didn't have Koeman, for example, who scored the winning goal. And that's where the maximum captainship can be useful in a game like this as well. Women's Fantasy Euros is more relaxing, doesn't have the prices, just pick and make transfers free max. Oh yeah, it's more casual as well, right? There's I know this one is also not competitive like FPL is, but yeah, I think with the women's one, it's just like pick some players, maybe some you've heard of, and then just have fun with it. Yeah, but in Game Week 1, I had Sanchez at 5% and didn't get the bonus. Yeah, I'm not sure why. Maybe he had like 0.65 and it rounded up to 5.1. Maybe that's how it goes, but yeah, it should qualify. Hopefully that happens. Well, the transfers are locked, like I mentioned before. You can still make substitutions, as you can see on screen. So we're not completely locked in yet. Yeah, Mina, I did just cover this now. I used the example of Cambiasso back in match day 2. Now, Twisted Parky just mentioned the Robert Sanchez example. He should get the additional points, assuming that Beraldo gets more than 4 points in this match day. Otherwise, it doesn't matter anyway. Yes, Juniper, I get that, but the qualification booster can still be used in match day 7, so, you know, they qualified to the trophy, I guess, so that's how it should work, I'm guessing, but they don't actually say it in the rules. For those that are using it now, I guess we'll find out, and then maybe know for next time. So Sinner was 4-2 up, I'm wondering what the scoreline is now, but I'm surprised. I thought I'd be able to maybe catch a little bit of the tennis before ending, but maybe not. Okay, but yeah, he's got a hold serve now. It's 4-3. If he wins this, he's in a great position to win Wimbledon for the first time. Neto to Vitinha, Chalobah and Colwill Beraldo in. Yeah, good transfers overall. I'm not entirely sure about Neto to Vitinha, but yeah, the good thing about it is that Vitinha has penalties. Andy says, damn, I was trying to change my 12th man to get 4 PSG defenders and couldn't do it. It locked PSG players and would have to get a Chelsea player or wasn't a transfer. Yeah, that can happen. No, Ezra, you can't change the 12th man now. That's locked in. The same goes for your transfers. Josh says, yo, Dylan, I went with Donnarumma, Mendes, Cucurella. As you said in your video, just in case Chelsea keep a clean sheet. Beraldo, Fernandes, Doué, Dembele, Vitinha, Kvaratskhelia, João Pedro. Yeah, that's something that is crossing my mind, and also to jinx Chelsea a little bit, I guess. But yeah, I think with my approach and trying to go all in on PSG, it does make sense to go for this. But I've got Donnarumma already. I've got Hakimi, Mendes, Beraldo. So yeah, it might be worth going for that extra Chelsea player or replacing Neto with Colwill, maybe. That's something I am considering. Yeah, nothing in 2027, so that could be a break for me. Let me not speak too early. But I'll still be doing stuff behind the scenes, I think, by that stage, but who knows what happens in a few years' time. Josh says, I went with Doué over Neto with 1 minute to go. I only went with Enzo because 2-1 Chelsea for real. Wow. Yeah, I like Doué a lot. He's one of my favourites to score in the Club World Cup final, and in the goal scorer odds, he's 5th, which I'll show you one more time, actually. Dembele is top as well. You can see Gonzalo Ramos is 2nd, but that's with the assumption he starts, which obviously he doesn't. So Kvaratskhelia and Doué, that's kind of the top 3. Barkel, of course, another substitute player. Palmer's up there. Same with João Pedro. Obviously, the other Chelsea players are on the bench. And Hakimi is right up there for a defender, which is very impressive. These are the clean sheet odds. PSG with a 38% probability. And their chances of winning are even higher at 72.7%. Fenerbahce puts his team 3 players below 5%. Yeah, just maybe don't count your chickens just yet, because Twisted Parky mentioned that example of Robert Sanchez, so maybe there is a chance that they don't actually get the qualification, the scouting bonus. And obviously, it all depends on if they get more than 4 points anyway, but in this case, it's Beraldo, Barcola, and the third option is Chalobah. Okay, that's interesting. I'm considering Colwill myself just for that sort of reason, actually. Andrea says, I already wrote 10 pages of FPL planning. Yeah, I haven't done that yet. Breakpoint Alcaraz. Yeah, never count him out. Never count him out. James might be a good pick if he gets pulled off at 60. Yes, assuming he does get pulled off at 60 and not beforehand. I've noticed people don't really pick Gusto. I did last match day and it worked out for me. Well, I had him last match day, mate. I just sold him now because he doesn't qualify for the scouting bonus, and I'm also going all in on PSG. Maybe I'll compensate for it slightly by going for Colwill in my starting 11, but yeah, I'm not so sure about that. Gusto does have more attacking potential, though, so that could mean he outscores Colwill anyway. Yeah, I don't know, Juniper. I mean, because it doesn't really make much sense, right? Because they introduced this booster in the round of 16, and it says it can be used at any point in the knockout stages, so I'm assuming that in the final, you know, it should basically give you points for winning it. Otherwise, it's kind of pointless now in Matchday 7. Coconut with some words of hate against Club World Cup Fantasy. Fair enough. 2-1. João Neves, Vitinha, and Caicedo score. Hopefully not. That would be terrible. Fuck that. Thank you, FPL Scott. Dylan, keep up with the great work, mate. If you ever want to do a video together, DM me. Okay, FPL Scott, thank you very much. I think you're a Chelsea fan, right? Based on your profile picture. Enjoy the final, and let's see what happens. Start Cucurella or Delapa and Cuckoo? Probably Cucurella. I mean, the other two are benched. You have asked this question before, mate. I know you might not have included in Cuckoo in there, but yeah, that's been covered. I can't wait for FPL. Was just back to it last year, and I did okay. And this year I predicted better. Yeah, the last 2 seasons have been my worst. I need to get back on track, but yeah, it's still fun from time to time. Josh says, because you probably have, but who should I captain? My favourites are Hakimi and Dembele. If you're backing PSG to keep a clean sheet, then I think Hakimi is the #1 pick. Dembele is a close second. My prediction is 2-0 PSG and for Dembele to score. So that does make it very, very close. But I think those two are levels above the rest in Club World Cup Fantasy. The deadly deadline got me twice. Yeah. I also think with Matchday 4 or 5, it might have been Matchday 5, I had the system error. No, it was Matchday 3. That cost me at least 7 points because I wanted Hakimi and he scored. Nuno Mendes only kept a clean sheet, but what can we do? Andy says I had, 2 bad game weeks. The rest was 75 points on average. That's fairly solid. Roll on FPL. Yes. Maybe not just yet. I'll take a day break or two, but I'll be working in the background, getting things ready, building a preliminary first draft using FPL.team. That's the plan. And we could see an early launch, but I think it's more likely now that will be in a week or maybe 10 days' time, so to speak. Not massively sure that those predicting player points is really worth it for FPL. Think I'll switch on with the actual prices kicking. Yeah, I always see comments like that anyway. But people still want to watch, actually. I'm fairly sure if I made a video in the next couple of days, people will still be interested to see what, kind of picks I'd go for, my reasoning. But I get that. Once we get the game launching, that's when we fully lock in and start ramping up the content, and people also watch more. So thank you to those that have been tuning in. As FPL Scott says, let's get the likes up, preferably to 100 plus. That would be greatly appreciated. Let's wrap up the last Club World Cup Fantasy deadline stream in style. We are 4 likes away from 100. There's still people here, which I do appreciate. What I might do, though, is turn on the tennis, especially if Alcaraz has broken. Oh, no, he hasn't. So, yeah, we could be looking at Sinner winning imminently. So, you know the drill. If you haven't already, like this video, subscribe. I'll be turning my TV on. For some reason, it causes a little glitch in this, so I'm going to avoid my face being shown. Otherwise, my face will just freeze like I'm a bot. And I'm not a robot, I promise. I really promise. But let's see now. Let me know if anything changed there, by the way. I went silent for a few seconds just in case. I didn't want to do anything. I think my antenna's terrible, though. If I actually put the game on, I don't think it'll actually work. You're probably thinking, what is this guy waffling about? Just talk about Club World Cup again. All right. Calm down. No, I don't think it's going to work. It's bloody TV. Wait, maybe if I go to a non-HD channel, like I'm back in the 80s? But yeah, I missed quite a lot of good tennis, it looks like. Some great shots as well from 2 of the best players in the world right now. No, it's not working on this either. That's just weird. Okay, well, forget it, then I'm not going to watch any tennis beyond the first set. Bloody hell, I'm missing a great match. But it could be over very soon anyway. So, there we go. Might as well turn that off. And go back. Don't worry, we're not ending just yet. Just going to answer a few questions, more comments. Let's get to 100 plus likes. We have done. Let's keep on going. 150. If we can get as close to that as possible, that would be greatly appreciated. So yeah, the messages keep piling in. Thank you, Godsent, for moderating the chat. I don't know what he was doing, spamming like that, when we're pretty much locked in, almost. All that's left is the starting 11 and stuff. That should be self-explanatory. So yeah, thank you, FPL Scott. Andy Burton says, thanks, Dylan, you're very engaging, and you help me and a lot of people. Thanks, and hit the like. Thank you very much against the algorithm. I appreciate that, Andy, and hopefully I'll see you in FPL and UCL Fantasy too. That will be covered very soon. Fenerbahce says, had a choice between Reece James and Chalobah, but went with the differential. And also I believe he could get a header from a corner, as PSG are a bit weaker through corners due to height difference. Yeah, I know it was a long time ago, but PSG really struggled against Arsenal in that league phase game, and 2 of the goals came from set pieces, basically, or from crosses, so that's a decent shout, actually. 60 minutes Chelsea defender damage limiting. Yeah, look, if Chelsea have a clean sheet by 60 minutes, Reece James is subbed off, and then PSG score 1 or 2, that's your kind of ideal scenario, isn't it? If you're going for 3 PSG defenders plus Reece James, you need some luck as well to go your way. FPL to release on the 18th. Well, yeah, I was basically saying in the next week or so, 10 days. It's a bit sooner than that. But yeah, 18th. That's interesting. We got a confirmation, it looks like. Very, very interesting. A lot has broken, it seems, in the last hour or so. Someone mentioned Gyökeres. I think it was Easy 99. Let me check David Ornstein, and let's see if that revives some optimism in the Arsenal fan base. So Arsenal in process of completing move for Victor Gyökeres after taking final steps in negotiations with Sporting Lisbon. Portuguese people always tell me not to say Sporting Lisbon, just say Sporting. So just something for you to know a little bit. Arsenal made 4 more advances on deal terms over weekend in bid to secure 27-year-old Sporting striker. 5-year contract lined up. Nice. It's about time. It's very weird that they got Madueke done and, kind of left Gyökeres. Oh, are they going to pay the extra 5 million or not? People don't trust the Arsenal board with good reason. But yeah, hopefully now they're going to sign Eze. I'd still want a left winger as well. I know Eze can play there, but yeah, if they can get Eze and Rodrigo on top of this, that's a very good transfer window, and maybe they've got a chance of winning the league. Maybe. It's better than what they had last year with this transfer window, but finally a top quality goal scorer at Arsenal. It's been a while. And the other thing was FPL, which, who cares about FPL? Yeah, it's in my name, but who gives a crap? So apparently it's launching on the 18th. Let's see. Okay, it's not on their website, but yeah, it's probably running around on X or something like that. But yeah, once it's out, I'll be covering it. And even before that, there could be a cheeky draft or two. Nap time before the footy. Have a great game, Dylan and chatters. Likewise, Gary. I sometimes do that before a Champions League night. Little nap, and then I can be wide awake for the game. Jorge Mota says, thank you, Dylan, for another premium piece of content and for keeping with us during this tournament. Greetings from Portugal. Very kind of you, Jorge. Let me know who you support. Is it Sporting, Porto, or Benfica? Maybe someone else, but I appreciate that. And yeah, it's the end. Bittersweet, you could say, but yeah, with FPL coming back very soon, it's not going to be a big break from me. No chance. Transfers are not live, be honourable, but you can make substitutions right now and change the captaincy before the game starts. In terms of chips, though, locked in, you can't change your 12th man, and your transfers are all set. Imagine Barcola scoring a brace or hat-trick from the bench. Well, for those that go there, massive differential, that'd be a game changer. I think Barcola can be quite wasteful, but I do like his dribbling, his technique is very good. I just don't trust him in front of goal. Just Parky says, Picares ×2 and Kelly, Fabio, Garcia, Gusto did get scouting for me. Yeah, so I'm just hoping Beraldo does the same thing if PSG keep the clean sheet. Andy Burton says PSG teaching Inter and Madrid a masterclass. Chelsea are not that level. Well, I saw a stat or picture that showed the world rankings for all the clubs Chelsea faced. And look, they can only beat what's right in front of them, right? But the rankings were quite low. And I think Flamengo are a good team. They should be much higher than 69th, but they beat Chelsea early in this competition. Every fantasy game I do really well, but in the last quarter screw it up. Well, I think I usually end strong, actually. Not always. I think FPL, for example, this season, I had some momentum, going into March and April, and then it all went to crap. But usually I end strongly, so I kind of grow. And I might have this sort of period at the beginning, which kind of cost me. And in this tournament, it was match day 1, but there were several reasons for it. Why didn't you go for Reece James? Well, I had Colwill already, and my priority was to bring in Dembele, Nuno Mendes, and other PSG players like Beraldo. That was my priority. I was considering, Cucurella, James, and other defenders, but Reece James is so injury-prone anyway, and I think Chelsea will concede a goal or two minimum. So I'm not that keen on him anyway. I might start Colwill, but my current plan is to go all in on PSG. Mina says, since we've reached the final game of the tournament, just wanted to say thank you for all the great videos and live streams. Well done, bro. Very kind of you, Mina, and hopefully all your questions have been answered and you're happy with the responses. So yeah, this was a bit late. Let's see if Sinner has finished up. Jorge as well, once again, thank you. Just the Parky, yeah, if you did player predictions, I would watch, but not the others, which I usually do. Yeah, price predictions video is interesting. Preliminary draft as well is something I've done before, but usually when the game launches, that's when I start racking up the content and different stuff is covered. It's nice to have an idea who's gone where, transfers and predicted prices, keeps you knowing you might have to look other places. That is true, Andy. Godsense says something a robot would say. Thank you. Twisted Parky says, used to watch tennis, too upper class or middle class for me now. I think it always has been a little bit like that, but yeah, when you've got Nadal, Federer and Djokovic, that's such a great era. Before that, you had Sampras and Agassi. Tennis has been blessed for many years, and there has been somewhat of a weak period recently, in my opinion, but at least now you've got two top players in Sinner and Alcaraz. That should be the best rivalry of this generation. As well, yeah, another one calling me a robot. Piss off. Let's Talk Vinyl says, hi Dylan, if you use max captain this game week, you can't change your captain. Doesn't matter, mate. It's not a triple captaincy. The maximum captain just changes to your highest scoring player, so there's nothing to worry about. will you re-debut new style in new season? Well, I'm not going to wear a fucking suit, I'll tell you that. But in terms of graphics and stuff, I already made a lot of changes from like February, March. I'll be using that as a platform for the for the new stuff. Yeah, for the next season. That's the plan for UCL Fantasy and FPL. So yeah, winner has won Wimbledon. Sinner has won Wimbledon. Yeah, fair enough. A lot of my friends hate him, and they do like Alcaraz. I don't know. I like Sinner's gameplay, to be honest. And I think a lot of people hate him because of the doping allegations, and obviously he was banned for 3 months. But he is a top player. As long as it's all legal, I'm all for it. Benfica, says Jorge. Yeah, we took Di Maria. When I say we, Rosario Central, he scored yesterday, a penalty, a very dubious one, on his debut. So cheers for that. Prediction, Arsenal number 2, because they always will be. Fuck off, Easy. I hope you lose today. I really hope you lose today. 3 points away. Oh yeah, so that was already done. You were doing a countdown. But yeah, Sinner came up clutch. But yeah, the way he lost in the French Open, obviously credit to Alcaraz, but I do think Sinner fumbled it. And tennis is a mental game. I know there's a lot of technical ability and stuff like that, but there's a reason why Djokovic is the most successful. I think the mentality is so important. What robot trickery is this? Wow. I still can't decide taking risk with full PSG defense with Marquinhos or sub Cucurella for less risk. I get that, but I'll be honest, based on my prediction, I'm going to say PSG. Go all out. If you think they'll win, then yeah, I'd just go for the PSG route. If Chelsea win, Pedro captain. If PSG win, Hakimi captain. Possibly, but I think with PSG, you've also got Ousmane Dembele, who is very close, because maybe PSG win 2-1 or 3-1, and Hakimi does nothing for once. You never know. But yeah, that's a fair assessment. I also agree with you, but I just think Dembele is so close to Hakimi. Who do you think will get them out of the match, Dylan? I think it might be Nuno Mendes this time. I'm going to say Ousmane Dembele. I think it also plays into the Ballon d'Or narrative, so if he scores, I think Dembele will win player of the match. Maybe a bit of a simple prediction, but that's my current call. Twisted Parky says, the only change I can make is to play Colwill. The other 2 are on a plane home. Yeah, I mean, I've got a full 50-man squad, but it means nothing, and 2 of them are on the bench, to be honest. Yeah, okay, so I'm not pissed off about this, but people keep saying, I've got Kvaratskhelia max captain, I've got Dembele max captain, I've got my mum max captain. Okay, it doesn't matter who's your captain right now. And I shouldn't have said my mum, but anyway, it automatically changes to your high scoring player. That's all. Like, you could have Delap, you could have Nkuku's forehead as captain. It doesn't matter because it will change to your high scoring player. So yeah, it's not triple captain and stuff like that. It's just highest scoring player gets the captaincy. Boom. Thank you, Club World Cup Fantasy. You did my job for me. That's basically it. Arsenal so far are the only team this season with a greater XG than PSG out of all PSG's games in all 3 matches. Yeah, look, I still think PSG deserve to win in the knockouts. They have a better team and more quality. Like, was I disappointed? Yes, but I was already kind of expecting it because from January, Arsenal fans like myself were crying out for a striker and for more quality up front. We didn't do it, and when you're down to Marino up front and stuff, you kind of just, you know, you maybe lose hope, or like realistically, you know you're not going to win the Champions League or Premier League. But imagine if Arsenal got Gyökeres back in January or last summer. You know, it would be a different story. A lot of big chances in those games. You also look at the game against Newcastle at home. Arsenal had 6 big chances, I think. 6. And they lost 2-0. Against United in the FA Cup, against 10 men, they had so many big chances, missed all of them, crash out. So yeah, it's so important. I think Arsenal as an overall team are one of the best, but at the moment they're a nearly team because they don't have the striker. That's where Gyökeres comes in, and I think he's a game changer. So I really hope he hits the ground running, gets 20 plus goals. Someone asked me earlier, are you going to have him in Game Week 1 of FPL? Maybe, because of the bloody hype. Cucurella or James? That's a close one. I mean, James is playing in a midfield role. Him being subbed off early can play to your advantage, but it can also be to your detriment because if it's before 60, then yeah, that's pretty much the worst case scenario for a defender. I'm going to say Reece James for the lower ownership, and Cucurella hasn't shown too much in terms of his normal attacking threat in this tournament. He's still bomb forward, but those kind of gate-crashing late runs into the box, we haven't seen that much of, in my opinion. I think Gusto and James would be a bit more exciting. Watch Cucurella now score the opening goal. Do you think Rodrigo will leave Real Madrid? Based on all the reports I'm seeing, yes. Do I think he goes to Arsenal? No. Do I massively rate Rodrigo? No, I'll be honest, I don't. But if he joined the Premier League, I think he'd be top 3 or 4 left wingers very comfortably, or top 3 wingers in general. Only Saka and Salah are clearly better, in my opinion. Maybe Mbeumo you could make a case for, but yeah, I think he'll leave. I think Liverpool, Chelsea, they'd have a chance of getting him. PSG, Bayern Munich, I think they're all going to be sniffing around. So yeah, that's been covered. Sinner wins, Chelsea win to follow. How about PSG? Thank you very much. Good night. So yeah, there's a lot coming in. Yeah, so I do appreciate it. Maybe we can get to 150 likes. Late push. Why not? Why not? Anything is possible. Arsenal sign a striker. Wow. Anyone in the chat playing their qualification bonus? Yes, good question. And if you are playing it, let me know in the Discord server on X, not my X, as in, you know, my Twitter. So yeah, just let me know if it actually works. Are you getting points for the winner? Or are you Yannick Sinner? Where does it say FPL is back on the 18th? Just someone on the live chat. I think it was Andrea. I haven't seen it anywhere, to be honest, but maybe he's right. I have 5 PSG midfielders and 3 PSG defenders. Have the 12th-man captain active. Oh, the chip. Pedro, Palmer, James, the 3 Chelsea players I have to play. And might be better starting a Madrid defender. Maybe. I mean, to be honest, Fran Garcia got me -1 point, so that is a fair shout, actually. Wow, imagine that. Fran Garcia will give you more points now in Matchday 7 when he's gone than he did in Matchday 6 when he played the 490. So yeah, Jesus Christ, Taha. You are very persistent. Bloody hell. Are you still going? Please don't tell me you're still going, because I answer your question. Calm down. Calm down. Top 10 Ballon d'Or in order prediction this season. There's still a few months to go, though, mate. Dembele, Vitinha, Hakimi, Nuno Mendes, Yamal, Rafinha, Salah. That makes up most of it. I think Mbappe would still be up there, to be honest, because he's won the European Golden Boot. So how many did I mention there? So both PSG fullbacks, Vitinha, Dembele, Yamal, Rafinha, Salah, Mbappe. That's 8. Declan Rice, you know, cheeky. He might be in the top 10, 20, I think, but yeah, I think 9th or in the kind of top 10. Probably another PSG player like Kvaratskhelia. I don't think João Neves and Ruiz will be particularly highly rated, but they're obviously very important in that PSG team. But that's 9 for you. I think that's a good number. After that, it gets a bit more difficult. Maybe Elise's up there, but in big games, he can do better, in my opinion. I was so hoping that Benfica were going to beat Chelsea. Well, the red card did change a lot, to be honest, and the penalty that Benfica got was also a bit dubious, but it's kind of funny seeing Chelsea fans complain about that. Yeah, they celebrated similar penalties in their favour, but let's not talk about that too much. Okay, Andre, you look a bit too happy about Alcaraz. You know, he is still, well, it's debatable. Best player, I mean, Sinner's #1. He's won 3 of the last 4 Grand Slams, right? But yeah, Alcaraz is a top player. I'm not sure, like, if you're comparing them to Djokovic, Federer, and Nadal, like, who they're most similar to. But I do remember Alcaraz saying his favourite is Federer, actually. And obviously, he is Spanish, so he does mention Nadal constantly. And Sinner as well, he thinks Federer is the best player. Yeah, I think Sinner does remind me a lot of Djokovic, to be fair. And Alcaraz has, like, a mixture of all 3 of them. Of the 3 greats, I'm saying. Don't forget Tin Henman or Greg Radusky. Oh yeah, Tin Henman, the Neely man. That's what I've been told about him. He's always on commentary though. Andy Burns says, I end strong and to trigger happy at the start. That's my habit. I need to curve for FPL this season. We all have habits. Yeah, I used to be trigger happy in FPL too. I took -20s, -24s. Yeah, I was very crazy with it. Bada says, hopefully this is the game Hakimi proves he's even more worthy of the Ballon d'Or. I still don't think he'll win it, though. I think Dembele would be the most likely. Carlos says, cheers, Dylan. You've helped me win my last 2 UCL mini-leagues. Looking forward to tuning in for the next season. Definitely not a robot, mate. Thank you. I didn't pay him, by the way, to say that. So cheers, Carlo. Hopefully you make it 3 in a row. Then maybe 4, and then do 5, and then be like Ronaldo. That dumb celebration he does. Not a tennis fan. I thought Sinner is a movie or UFC fighter. No. He's a 23-year-old Italian tennis player. I know Novak, Nadal, and Federer. Yeah, they're the big 3. that's the equivalent of Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo of the last generation, of Pele, Maradona in the 70s and 80s. Obviously different generations, but still, there was always that comparison. I thought Alcaraz played for West Ham. Yeah, true. No, it's a different one. And there's also the Alcaraz from Everton, right? He was at Southampton as well. My top 5 tennis supporting order: Draper, Sinner, Norrie, Alcaraz, Runa. Oh, okay, I didn't expect that. I thought you'd have Djokovic in there, to be honest. Maybe you don't like him. You played your mum max captain. How'd you do that? Yeah, no. I was saying my mum in the words of someone else, not my mum. I shouldn't have said that. My mum is captain. Brother's been explaining the max captain for 8 times now. I mean, that's a way for people to remember, isn't it? Yeah? Good teaching methods. You got the maximum captainship active. I got the mum captain activated, big man. This means it will pick the highest scoring player automatically. Yes, exactly that. I might just leave your message highlighted so people don't ask again. Maybe play the maximum captain on the girlfriend. It's better than Doué at the moment and all these players. Based on the Premier League transfers till now, will FPL be more fun next season? I'm going to say yes. Gyökeres at Arsenal, game changer. Wirtz at Liverpool, could be priced at 9 to 10 million. Also, Frimpong, Kerkez. You've got an option there with premium options. You know, do you go for Kerkez and Arsenal defenders? Do you maybe go cheap there? I think it will be better. In Cuckoo's forehead, yeah, Delap's forehead, just so people don't, you know, play victim or something. Yeah, would have preferred Pedro to go to Arsenal. Yeah, I don't know. I don't like him. Maybe all the penalties he scores against us, but yeah, no, he's better than Madueke as a signing overall. But yeah, I just would rather get Gyökeres and Rodrigo and Eze, to be honest with you. Andy says, I'm a Villa fan. You would do okay with Watkins in your squad. I don't see that happening now. With Gyökeres sealed, it looks like. I think Watkins would have been good in January, better than what we did, which was nothing. But yeah, Watkins is a good player, Arsenal fan as well. And Villa could still sell him, even though they've obviously done several things to, you know, keep with the UEFA rules and stuff like that. Who will be the hype player this season? Quite often they are Toilet. Well, I'm not saying he's going to be Toilet, but Wirtz will be the hype player. The biggest transfer fee. Oh, but he's the 5th highest, you know. Add-ons aren't included. Yeah, right, BBC. But yeah, I think Wirtz would be the hyped one. Maybe Gyökeres, and hopefully he does live up to it. Thanks for all the help once again, bro. Take care, everyone, and good luck. Likewise, Godsend. Enjoy the final. The fact that you can spy on other teams in mini-leagues before deadline is a deal-breaker for me. I haven't done that once. That isn't a good thing for content creators, I guess, for those that just copy, you know. I mean, I might just make a late change anyway to throw people off, but there you go. Well, Mishi, look, it's football. It's a rivalry. It's banter. I support Arsenal. I'm not going to like Chelsea. Just because we keep buying their players doesn't mean, yeah, cheers, Chelsea, I love you. No chance. Piss off. Rodrigo not going to Chelsea. Chelsea already have too many wingers. Yeah, but with the 48 million from Madueke, why not use that to get Rodrigo? If that happens, I'd be fuming, even after getting Gyökeres. Lookman says, Rashford or Luis Diaz, who is better option for Barcelona? I don't rate any particularly highly, to be honest, but probably Diaz. He's a bit younger, better dribbler, very inconsistent, and I think Rashford's goal scoring is slightly better, but yeah, I'd say Luis Diaz is a better transfer overall. I bet Charlie win, or is that Chelsea? Wait, what? Oh, is that Alcaraz? Just lost £10. Don't bet. That's the thing. Bada says, Chelsea going to be the 5th English team to bottle it this season against PSG. Losing is different to bottling it. Like, did Villa bottle it against PSG? No. They gave a really good account of themselves. Liverpool were very lucky in the first game. They should have been battered by PSG. Then in the game where they deserved to draw or win, they lost. Arsenal, I think, outplayed PSG at times. I wouldn't say any of them bottled it, to be honest. Did Arsenal bottle chances? Maybe. But they also don't have the quality up front, so I think that's natural. Yeah, I think the word bottle is thrown around a lot. Yes, Arsenal sometimes do it. I'm not going to deny that, but yeah, I don't think those teams bottled it against PSG. Man City, they were 2-0 up. And PSG at the time weren't like the super power that they are now. I think that was the game changer for them. From that point onwards, they became the best club side in world football. But difficult to say. I don't hate Chelsea myself, just think PSG are so good. Just watch. Well, yeah, you're a Villa fan as well. You have no reason to hate Chelsea. If Chelsea win, shall we just quit football? Not quit football, but just be like, okay, well done. You won the Club World Cup. Move on. I mean, it's not going to change anything. When they won the Conference League, I expected it from the beginning. This would be a little bit different, but I'm not going to lose sleep over it. I'll tell you now. When they won the Champions League, yeah, I was not happy about it, but it happens. Just have to hope that my team finally win it. Andy says, yes, give up if Chelsea win. I'd like them too. Nice for the underdog team. PSG looks set to win everything. Well. It's not good for our Club World Cup fantasy teams, unless some people in the chat have gone for 6, 7, 8 Chelsea. Yeah, Pedri, yeah, he deserves to be in there for sure. I think that's a good top 10 list, fairly accurate. And I would rank Pedri higher than Mbappe, by the way. And Pedri would be in my top 5, personally. Enzo Forts will play 120 if going to extra time. XGXA, not particularly high with the goal scoring potential or the big chances, but he will play in advanced positions in the midfield. That's the good thing about it. So it's a good shout. I think Enzo is better than most Chelsea midfielders and assets, actually, for the Club World Cup final. Hakimi, not the best defender, but is one of the best attacking defenders. Yeah, look, as a right back, which is my voice, let's do a war break. I am ill, by the way, if you can't tell, so let me just shake that little twat off. So yeah, take 2. I agree with what you're saying, but in terms of right backs, Hakimi is the best one. I don't think there's much competition. What, Trent? Haha. Frimpong? No. Yeah, I think Hakimi's the best right back. Defensively, he's not the greatest, and does he compare to Lahm, Zanetti, and Dani Alves? No chance, especially the first two. But yeah, he's a contender for best football in the world right now. Maybe it goes to show how bad football is right now, but moving on. Bada with his top 10, obviously a Moroccan in the chat. Anana, Donnarumma, Mbappe, Salah, Mendes, Yamal, Rafinha, Dembele, Vitinha, Hakimi. Yeah, I think Pedri should be in there. Obviously, the last one's a bit of a joke one, but yeah, Donnarumma, yeah, would be another shout as well. I think goalkeepers deserve more credit. Also, you can't actually play your mum. No wonder I can't find it. Yeah, don't look for people's mums, okay? I was only just trying to get people to understand what it was. Dylan, la fantasy de Premier League tiene el mismo sistema de puntuación que la Champions. No, es un poquito distinto, pero voy a explicarlo cuando empieza el Premier League de nuevo. Y ya en estos días arrancará FPL y yo también voy a hacer videos como mi primer equipo, pero todo va a ser provisional. Provisional? I don't think that's a word. Provisional. Whatever. You get my point. Va a ser algo bastante, no sé. Lo voy a inventar, como lo que estoy diciendo ahora. Mr. Parky says, one thing I don't like is the big six getting so strong and Brentford, Bournemouth less so. Brentford might really struggle if Mbumo, etc. go. Yeah, so last season, apart from Liverpool, I think the Prem was evenly balanced. But I just think there was a lack of quality, and we all kind of knew, you know, Liverpool were the only consistent team. The rest were just fighting for the other positions. And I think now we could see City, Liverpool, and Arsenal going for the title. You could see Chelsea, Newcastle, Spurs, Villa, all these different teams competing for the final Champions League spots. But there's different ways of looking at it. And obviously you support Brighton, who are in that sort of bracket with Bournemouth and Brentford. So I can see why you sort of relate to that sort of opinion. I'm kind of hoping Arsenal challenge and win the league. So yeah, I'm going to have a different take on it. What's the most random transfer so far? Madueke to Arsenal. The French national team looks scary. On paper, yes, but I do think Argentina and Spain are the best teams in world football right now. I think Argentina, obviously with Di Maria retiring and Messi approaching the end, yeah, there will maybe be that sort of shift and they will no longer be the best team, but they have been for the last 5 years. France have always been up there in the top 4 since the last, 6 years? And they keep producing quality players, which is scary, but it's all about the manager as well and their tactics and seeing if they can actually translate that to World Cups and trophies. In your opinion, is the atmosphere of the Champions League better than the of World Cup? No chance. The World Cup has a great atmosphere. Even the last one in Qatar, look at the Argentinian fans travelling across the globe and the atmosphere for all of those matches. And I think in Brazil, you know, in 2014, in South Africa in 2010, yeah, the atmosphere is brilliant. A lot depends on the country as well. So I think in America it might not be as good, maybe, but it should still be pretty decent. Imagine you can have a card for top performance with your partner. Bet all of us men wasted a chip too quickly. Yeah, that wouldn't be too fair, of course, especially for the single people out there. Mr. Barkey says, okay, I should have said the budget hype players toilet. In Cuckoo, Bailey, before one season, the tank from Wolves, etc. Yeah, that's a fair point. Stop throwing bottles, it's dangerous. Yeah, that's true. Obviously, Ballon d'Or is so biased, they'll give it to the French Dembele. It's more about politics and economy. Sometimes it is, I agree. It's inconsistent as well with the awards. Now, Dembele, let's not forget, if it's season-based, he wasn't actually that great at the beginning. It's in 2025 where he has become one of the best players in world football. And he was also left out of the squad against Arsenal in the league phase because of disciplinary issues. So, yeah, I think you're right that it can be based on politics, but I don't share that sentiment when people say, oh, you know, Ronaldo won his Ballon d'Ors because of that, or Messi. You know, Messi could arguably have 10 plus Ballon d'Ors, in my opinion. So when people say about that, I'm not really in agreement, but I think in this case, you are probably right. Dembele has that advantage because of the nationality. Yeah, exactly that, Andy. You won a leg against PSG. The same goes for Liverpool. So you can't say they bottled it. Not in my opinion, anyway. Villa gave PSG the most problems. Yeah, I think so. Even though, as Twisted Parky says, Arsenal out-XG'd PSG, I never got the impression they were going to win in the knockout stages because they didn't have the quality. I think Villa had more of a chance, especially when they got the second and third goals. So I do agree with you there. Villa on fire, don't get outclassed. I'm a bit worried about Villa, though, next season in terms of the limited transfer activity compared to their competitors in similar positions. I think Spurs could maybe leapfrog them. Hopefully that doesn't happen, but it's a possibility. Wishing to see another ladies. Are you all right? Sanchez saved today. Yeah. Do you like the Madueke signing? No. I'm going to back him, and I really hope he does well. If Arsenal get Gyökeres, which it looks like it's going to happen now, if they also get Rodrigo and Eze, fine. You know, Madueke as backup to Saka, can get a few games as well as a star, also on the left. No problem, but for Madueke to start most games for Arsenal, no, not for me. Luis Enrique changed PSG's identity without needing Mbappe. Yeah, look, Luis Enrique is a top coach. There's no doubt about it. I liked him a lot at Barcelona. Then, of course, he was kind of ousted out and his tenure wasn't that long. Will he be able to sustain this for many years? I'm not so sure. And ultimately with PSG, yes, he's done really well with them after selling such a superstar, but PSG have inverted billions and billions into the club. They've got so many quality players everywhere, so he's not performing miracles, but what he is doing is an excellent job. Maximin captain could be better if he had to choose a team. Yeah, I mean, that would make it even more difficult, especially if you used it early in the competition, to be quite honest with you. Fenerbahce says, thank you for the content throughout the tournament, Dylan. Appreciate the consistency and good luck with the team. Very kind of you again, Fenerbahce. And yes, we are approaching the end of Club World Cup fantasy content, but people are still here. Drop a like, even if you're on your way out. Let's get to 150 likes or as close as possible to it. Twisted Parky says, I predicted last September that Spurs will win Europa and Chelsea Conference League. Chelsea was very easy prediction, though. Well, yeah, I agree. Chelsea were the odds-on favourites. If they didn't win it, it would have been a failure, in my opinion. I was asked at the beginning of last season, who's going to win Europa? I said two names, Man United and Spurs. That was the final. And it's not because they're great. In fact, if I knew how bad they were going to be in the league, I would have said somebody else, like Bilbao or something. But I looked at the teams in it, and the fact that Champions League squads wouldn't drop out of it, and you'd have like Atletico go into the Europa League, and I just thought, it's made for them to kind of go on and win it. Unfortunately, it happened, but that'll be the last that Spurs win in a long time, I think. Who is better, Trent or Hakimi? Hakimi. I think Hakimi's a better all-round player, defensively, also a little bit more sure. Trent is a better passer, there's no doubt about it, but Hakimi's pace, his dribbling, his attacking positioning, also the superior defending, I think Hakimi's the better all-round player. Yeah, game starts very soon. Obviously, you said that 8 minutes ago. We are approaching the end. He says early of the season he'd rather have 3 players scoring 12 goals than 1 scoring 40. Well, yeah, that is true as well. I agree with that sort of sentiment, but Arsenal had that sort of thing in the last couple of years, but they still need that bagsman, that clinical striker in games where they struggle to score, you know, a goal or two, where they need to translate those draws into wins or losses into draws. But, yeah, look, he says that, and he's right. He's got like 4 or 5 players who did it, but he still had Dembele getting 35 goals in all comps. You need that sort of goal scorer anyway. Brentford will struggle regardless this season. It's very likely that they will. Maybe the new coach surprises us. Very surprising appointment, but Hopefully they do well. All selling clubs take a dip after 2 big starts. Yeah, but look, Brentford have done a great job on the Thomas Frank. But losing him, potentially in Mbumo, Norgard, their captain, it's too many outgoings in my opinion. Easy says this season, 1 each: best goalkeeper, defender, midfielder, forward, best coach, best under 21 team transfers. Well, PSG is clearly the best team. Best transfer, I'd have to think about that. That's a difficult one. I need to rehash my knowledge a little bit there. Best manager, yeah, slot is a consideration, I think, but I'm going to say Luis Enrique. Best forward, it's between Rafinha, Salah, and Dembele for me. I'm going to say Salah's dipped so much in the last part of the season, though. I think Rafinha's been consistent all round. Dembele, great 2025. So yeah, this season, I'm going to say Rafinha, best forward. Best midfielder, Pedri. Best defender, Hakimi. Best goalkeeper, Donnarumma. Best under 21, Yamal. That's an easy one, I think. Best transfer, I need to think about it. If it's 2025 only, then I think Dembele over Rafinha for best forward. Fully fit and firing Reece James is the best right back in the world, in my opinion. Not for me. He's really good. He might be a consideration for best right back in the Prem, but I don't even think he's that, to be honest with you. Maybe now that Trent's gone, you could say. But I think defensively as well, they could be better. But yeah, we all have our own opinions. I don't think that's a bad shout, but not for me. I think Hakimi is better. Do you see Dybala joining Liverpool? No. Never say never, but I don't think that'll happen. In the South African World Cup, we had Vuvuzela's in the stadium. That was a little bit annoying, but the atmosphere was still really good. Now, the most random transfer is Henderson to Brentford or Walker to Burnley. Yeah, Walker to Burnley would be the one. Maybe a slight surprise that Henderson didn't return to Sunderland. Hi Dylan, sorry again, I went, but Hakimi, Dembele, Beraldo to captain, or neither of them. Yeah, my favourites are Hakimi and Dembele. I said that before. Hakimi, if you're kind of preserving rank or backing PSG to keep a clean sheet. Does Madueke make Saka a less appealing FPL pick? It might well do. It might reduce his minutes or stuff like that, but as things stand, I think Madueke starts as the left winger. Do I think he's better than Martinelli? No. He's definitely not better than Trossard. I want Arsenal to upgrade on the left wing. You know, if needed, sell Martinelli or Trossard. Madueke is back up to Saka, but yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens there. But look, Gyökeres is done. That's all I care about. And look, I want Madueke to do well. I think the abuse he's getting is ridiculous. The same goes for Arteta as well, by the way. If you've seen things that have gone around online in the kind of the murals outside the Emirates. Does Arteta deserve criticism? Yes, he does. The same goes for the Arsenal board, but there you go. Time to give us your overall take on the Club World Cup competition. Well, ultimately, we all know what it is. It's about more games, more money. It has been slightly better than expected, but I think the main problems with this tournament is the fact that a lot of us don't have a horse to back in this race because a lot of these top teams like Barcelona, Liverpool, etc. aren't in the competition when they should probably be in there over someone like Dortmund, for example. No offense to any Dortmund fans in the chat. Just one example there. But yeah, I think it has been a decent tournament overall. I think the Brazilian teams have been very strong. Maybe a bit more than I expected, but yeah, I still think it's probably just too much football in general. I think this would have been a nice time for the players to rest, but ultimately they have the choice. You know, the players and the clubs, you know, they can rest some of them. Maybe they've done it from time to time, but the money talks, and they're getting a lot of money for winning this competition or even just participating. Villa have the strength and depth. We will do okay. Well, the thing is, though, no Rashford, no Asensio. Also, Daniel Marlon. We'll go see what Villa do in the end, but yeah, I think Villa could struggle next season. I think at the moment I'd back them to finish 7th in the Prem, which is still decent. But I think Villa could win the Europa League under Unai Emery. That's kind of my current prediction. They win Europa League, and a lot depends on the other teams in it. I need to check the full list again. But they'll do worse in the league. And to be honest, you'd take that, wouldn't you? Robbie Williams doing the opening Club World Cup ceremony? Yeah, I will not be there. I'm not going to watch that. Qatar atmosphere was bad. I think in a lot of games, yes. The Saudi Arabian fans were good. I think the Argentinian fans were brilliant all around. And because I was really emotionally invested in Argentina winning it, and I watched every single game, every minute, yeah, maybe I'm a bit biased saying that, but I think the World Cup generally has a better atmosphere. Qatar might be an exception because it was in winter, middle of the season, and also it was in Qatar. A lot of people had reservations about the tournament being hosted there. Good luck to everyone, and thanks also, Dylan, for all your help. Thank you very much. I appreciate it, Josh, and enjoy the Club World Cup final. How would you sum up your preseason Club World Cup training for FPL? Maybe a little bit busier than I would have wanted, because I was asked a lot of times in May, are you going to do Club World Cup fantasy content? And I said, if there's a game, then maybe I'll cover it. In the end, it was, dropped on the 23rd of May, and I was like, yeah, okay, I'm going to cover it. Let's go. But it's been fun. It's a nice way to keep somewhat fresh. Obviously, get any blunders or errors and stuff like that, get the rust out of the system, and be ready for FPL when it comes. But I will be on holiday in a few weeks' time, so let's see if I can still do that when I'm, in a room which is like 40 degrees and stuff, just like this room, but in a different country. Fenerbahce says Dembele deserves it, but Pedri and Rafinha are being disrespected. Oh yeah, okay, just to make it clear, by the way, just because I mentioned Pedri like 10th, he's not my 10th pick. He'd be top 5 easily, just to make it very clear. So I do agree with you that they deserve to be much higher, and a lot of people are very PSG-centric right now, which is understandable, but maybe a little bit overboard. They should have been on the podium with the amount of top performances they put in big games, especially Pedri. Yeah, both of them top 5 for me, alongside Dembele, Hakimi, and then you go for Vitinha, Donnarumma. Who knows? Dylan, what are your thoughts on doubling defense in FPL for an extended period of time? It does seem less appealing at the moment from what I've seen. I'm going to do more research with fixtures, and also the prices will be very important, but I think at the beginning Liverpool could be worth doubling up on defensively with Kerkez and a cheaper option there. Konate's linked with Real Madrid. We'll see what happens in terms of that transfer, but yeah, I think Kerkez will be very appealing. Maybe him and Frimpong as an attacking duo. Then you go for Salah or Wirtz in the midfield, but yeah, Arsenal I'd avoid for now. You could go for Gabriel, but I wouldn't double up on Arsenal with their opening start, not defensively. Brighton are a selling club, and so far we have not suffered that much. I agree. I also think you've got a good coach with potential, but I don't know. There's something about Hurstler I don't really like. Maybe the fact that he always gets points against Arsenal with some dodgy matches, but anyway, let's not talk about that. The new Brentford coach is set-piece coach for Brentford. Exactly, free kicks. Very weird appointment, but I'm sure Brentford did a lot of research. They analysed the data. They're a data-driven club after all. Hopefully it works out for them, just not against my club. I would have Ben White over James. I think Ben White is very underrated in general. I think Timber's also a very good defender, whether it's at left-back, centre-half, or on the right. Yeah, I'd also take him over James, to be fair, defensively for sure. When Reece James is fully fit, which is very rarely, yes, he's up there as one of the best right-backs, but I still think Hakimi is comfortably better. The new Brentford coach played one season for Brighton. Didn't know that. I'll maybe mention it one time. Kivior rumoured to leave Arsenal. Yeah. The thing is, though, I'd like to see Kivior stay. Add Mosquera, because Tomiyasu has left the club. Mutual termination of the contract. Sell Sinchenko, get a bit of funds there. Sell Fabio Vieira and a few other players. And then get Gyökeres, Rodrigo, Eze. Get Mosquera, who could be announced this week. I think that's a great transfer window, on top of Norgard, Kepa, and Jesus, I'm forgetting the other one. Madueke. Prediction for next Chelsea players Arsenal sign next season. I wish we go for Palmer. That's the one I'd want. And yeah, we are locking in, by the way, and it looks like I'm quite comfortable with what I've got. So I'm going all in on PSG there with 3 Chelsea attackers. But yeah, we are locked now. Even if the game starts in 5 minutes, yeah, it doesn't matter. The deadline will fully lock in now. So yeah, we can end that now. Inter suffer from playing in the Club World Cup. Yeah, I think so. I think a few teams would have done so, unless they go on to win it, like maybe PSG or Chelsea tonight. Yeah, a lot of them would have felt, yeah, we got the money, but it might not be great for our preparation or, for our energy levels going into Game Week 1. Andy says, keep an eye out on Sunderland for cheap FPL picks this season. They're doing stuff right at the moment, it looks like, for a team coming up. Yeah, my current predictions, they're still my bottom 3. I think Leeds could make it out at the expense of Wolves or Brentford, but only time will tell. Transfers will be very important to determine the winner of the Premier League, who finishes top 4, and who stays up. But yeah, maybe you're right. FPL-wise, Sunderland could offer good value. I still think they'll go down, though, as things stand. Club World Cup being okay in the end. The fantasy, though, deadline screw-ups, players not getting big chances or scouting bonus points, the captain fiasco, etc. I agree. The biggest problem, obviously, was Matchday 1. They have been better since then, but I'm not going to clap someone for doing their job, you know, like, every deadline should work. We should never be locked up prematurely, and they didn't even address it at all, which is the worst thing about it. Yeah, the midfield stuff is very strange with the big chances or key passes. We just don't know. In the rules, it says key passes. Yeah, it's just inconsistent application of the points. It's not really what you want to see. Christian says 3-1 PSG. Hopefully a clean sheet, but as long as we get points and a green arrow, I'll take it. Dylan, en España se comenta que Konate viene al Madrid. ¿Crees que tiene el nivel suficiente? Yo prefiero a Saliba. Sí, para mí Saliba es mejor y también hay un problema con Konate en términos de lesiones. Hay muchos partidos que pierde para Liverpool. Quizás esta temporada fue un poquito mejor y jugó muchos partidos, pero sí, Konate se lesiona bastante. Es un buen defensor, pero no creo que es mucho mejor de lo que tiene Madrid ahora. Comparado con... Sí, con Raúl Asensio creo que es mucho mejor que él, pero también con Hausen y Rudiger no hay mucha diferencia. Para mí Saliba es el defensor estrella del mundo ahora y él ayudaría mucho a Madrid y creo que ya en 2 o 3 años va a ir a Madrid, desafortunadamente para Arsenal, pero sí, Saliba es mejor que Konate, pero para mí es un buen fichaje por 20 millones de euros o 30 y si no, gratis el año que viene. Not watching Robbie Williams, I'm loving the Angels instead, right? Or Angels. Double Arsenal with their fixtures, probably not. Exactly. Looks good for Game Week 2 against Leeds, maybe, but not in Game Week 1, 3, 4, 5, or 6. Not great. Money talks, but I think they make it as a proof for the 26 World Cup. Or Prova. I get what you're kind of saying, the gist of it, just not that particular word. It's not very promising. Heat, storms, humidity. I agree. Yeah, from that perspective, it has been a little bit worse than expected with the constant suspensions of matches and stuff like that. Qatar is more strict in terms of alcohol. That's why less aggressive support. But I also think the travel distances, the media representation of the Qatar World Cup, and obviously the way the stadiums were built and stuff, I think a lot of the controversies played a big part in that. Next year will be more chaos in the street. Oh yeah, and also look at the Copa America final between Argentina and Colombia. It was suspended for hours and hours because the security couldn't deal with the fans. I think a lot of Colombian ones were causing problems and then the security just didn't deal with it in the right way. Right, going off to support a stream who sounds like an old school radio commentator. Live football streams if anyone is interested, says Andy Burton. Belfast guy and is a Liverpool fan. He's okay for a Liverpool fan, I suppose. Yeah, look, a lot of Liverpool fans are sound, but you've got some obnoxious ones in there, and unfortunately, I know some of them. He also played for West Bromwich Albion, Hull City and Blackburn, I think, as well as others. Brentford coach. Interesting, I didn't know that either. Yeah, I think Madueke will be better than Sterling, and by the way, Sterling's only goal was against Bolton. I went to the stadium. I also saw Sonogo score against Borussia Dortmund in the Champions League game, but yes, the answer is he will be better than Sterling, but for 48 million, why sign him? You could have got Bakayoko for almost half the price. I just don't get it. Your players have gone green, mine haven't. Yeah, maybe just refresh it, but I'm not sure. It's a bit inconsistent sometimes, and it kind of like finalizes for some people earlier than it does for others. Brentford seem like the forgotten what they're doing. While it's difficult to kind of replace the longest serving manager in the Premier League, you know, someone who's taken them through all the divisions, got them to the Premier League and stabilized them, and now they're appointing someone completely random and new, you could say. Qatar weather heat is more hot in the middle of the year than USA. Yeah, I know. I understand why it was hosted in the end of the year, but it also played a part, in my opinion, in terms of the atmosphere not being the same with other countries besides Argentina and Saudi Arabia. Easy says Saudi Arabia 2034 also likely to be held in the end of the year. This could become more of a common occurrence, actually, in World Cups in general. It might also mean higher quality football. I actually think the Qatar World Cup was significantly better than Russia, which is probably the worst World Cup in many years, in my opinion. Because it's in the middle of the season, it helps having the players, you know, being at their highest level, their fitness, energy, match sharpness, all of that is really on point, in my opinion. Enjoy the game. Thank you, Afnan. Likewise, even though I'm hoping for a different result to you. Twisted Parky says 2034 is too far away for me to think about. Yeah, but before you know it, we're there. Yeah, Angels instead. A Robbie Williams lyric. I know nothing about him. Just what he looks like, I think. Andy Burton says, anyway, yep. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Don't know why people need alcohol so bad. But then I'm an epileptic, so I can't. Didn't know that. Yeah, some people do need that to kind of like unwind and maybe be more vocal or expressive. In a football game, I'm loud no matter what. And that's why typically the morning after, I've lost my voice and it's even worse than what it currently is, which it might not be too appealing on the ears, is it? Late kickoff as always, so American, exactly. And that's why I'm still here, right? Yeah, Sterling's gone back to Chelsea, but they're going to get rid of him eventually there. Question is, who is the longest serving now? I think it's Arteta, if I'm not mistaken. If not, he's the second. No, he's the... Yeah, Pep Guardiola, sorry. No, it's okay. Let me correct myself. Guardiola is the longest serving. Thomas Frank was second, and Arteta was third. And now, haha, joke, Arteta's second again. Not for long, hopefully. And he finishes first next season, inshallah. Otherwise, he's gone. Easy says the disadvantage of having a good season for an underdog team, big clubs will sign their best players from the underdog team. Well, yeah, but you still want to do well, right? Whether it's Wolves, who ended the season strongly, Brentford, Brighton. But yeah, it's a natural cycle, right? There's a hierarchy in football, and unfortunately in the Premier League, the big six are very powerful financially. Might be tempted to have a drink before the game if I was a United supporter right now. Fair enough. Rumours next year that the final of the World Cup is in the morning American time. We'll see when we get to it, but hopefully not. I mean, we have seen in this Club World Cup, they have appealed and tried to appease the European fans as much as possible with these times. I mean, for the game to be at 8 p.m. in the UK and basically midday in the US, yeah, it might not be best for the conditions and it's going to be very hot there, but it does allow you to watch it. Yeah, Bada, not for long, hopefully. I do think Arteta's a really good coach, but there's a few things that obviously I think maybe hold him back, but maybe one of them is not having the top striker, which he now does have. The last time he had that sort of top quality goal scorer, he had Aubameyang and they won the FA Cup and Community Shield, so hopefully once more they can win the bigger trophies now. Fenerbahce says rank 2.1k, hopefully can get into the top 1,000 through a Chalobah or Barcola goal, but I am fine if it's an engaging final at least. Well, yeah, the rank is still decent in the end, and it's all about enjoying it at this stage, but yeah, I'm hoping to get a big green arrow and finish as highly as possible. This is so cringe. They have a boxing dude into introducing the game like a boxing match. They did that for a recent game. I think it might have been the semi-finals between Chelsea and Fluminense. Arteta last chance redemption story? Potentially. I think context is very important as well, but yeah, Arteta, it's a very important season for him. Signing Madueke doesn't really do him any favours, to be honest with you, but getting Gyökeres, I think, is a game changer. Just get the players necessary, and then if Arsenal don't deliver, the manager is definitely looked at there. Let's not Americanise the game, or let the Americans get a grip on our game too much. I think they have already, to be honest, and this BS about interviewing players at halftime is very stupid, in my opinion. Just leave it as how it is. Why don't you interview referees and ask them about why they're so stupid at times or why they've made a certain call? I think that'd be better. Easy says, or maybe like Henri says, let me just get your message up, probably something stupid. It wasn't Henri, it was Patrice Evra. Henri didn't say that, but yeah, Arsenal will win eventually. I'm just hoping it's sooner rather than later. Finally kicked off. That American nonsense should stay away from football. It's going to keep getting worse, I'm afraid, and a lot of these top clubs, like Arsenal, have American owners, Liverpool, so it's a shame. Interviews at halftime is bollocks. Yes, it might, introduce funny moments and stuff and viral stuff, which is what they're aiming for, but get that stuff out, man. Get that stuff out. It's then going to lead to bans or, fines and stuff like that. Yeah, let's not Americanize the game too much. I think Tustapaki was right in that regard, to be fair. But that is it. I can also end this poll now. Halftime show later in halftime. Only in America it happens, so not worrying. It's going to happen in the Premier League next season. It's confirmed. So we'll see how it goes, but I think it's terrible. So Chelsea hosting, PSG playing with the white jerseys. I mean, sometimes that can play an effect. I wouldn't look too much into it. I mean, PSG are clearly a better team It's all about whether they perform in the final. And look, Donnarumma is my captain. Even though I captained Hakimi originally, it really means nothing, as you can see. So my highest scoring player will be my final captain. I'm sure most American fans won't be offended, to be honest. I mean, yeah, a lot of people do agree, even those in America. Chelsea are pressuring hard. Yeah, well, hopefully it amounts to nothing. But good luck to everyone. Enjoy the football. I'll see you very soon. Obviously, this is the end of Club World Cup Fantasy content, but you can still like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and also share the stream around with those that love Club World Cup Fantasy, FPL, and the Champions League. And I will be back very soon with Fantasy Premier League content, with that game returning imminently. And there could be a preliminary draft using websites like fpl.team. Check all the links in the description for my Patreon and the Championships, further links to my videos, amongst many other perks. The Discord server, Club World Cup Fantasy League, and Spotify can also be found in the description. A massive shout out to those that like this video, that showed support in every single live stream, and also piece of content. And that is the end. So hopefully this final lives up to the hype, and we get a great end to a decent tournament with its problems, fantasy-wise and also on the pitch. Donnarumma outscoring the mum captain, yeah. But they all have 1 point at the moment. Yeah, fair enough, easy. Halftime show. Let's just see how it all goes, but too many American things at the moment. I wish Arsenal didn't have American owners, and they had, you know, ambitious ones that wants to win. But hopefully they, you know, put the money where their mouth is, help Arsenal win. That's the way to go, unfortunately. You spend a lot of money and you win. Look at PSG recently. Cheers, mate. Thanks for the live as always. Thank you, Bada. The same goes for Twisted Parky. Hopefully, that is what we're hoping for. Chelsea to get battered. They do get battered everywhere they go, especially in London, because London is red. Take care, everyone. Enjoy the football. And like I said, FPL News Your Fantasy is on the precipice, so keep your eyes peeled for that. But until then, enjoy this final, and I'll see you in the next FPL video.